Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between Two Peers, a live stream show where the hosts invite a guest from around the known world to answer your pressing questions about life, the universe, and everything. Can you believe that this is our 52nd show? Our 52nd show. We've been doing this for a year. So one of the things that we're going to do this time is invite our very first guest, who was on the show, Her Majesty Queen Vera of the West, so she can see how much we've grown in a year. So with that being said, this week sponsored by Gin and Tonics, one and only Auntie Vera's Gin Joint, or port, or rum and coke, or water, or wine, because we don't know what we're in the mood for right now. Boy, that is a total mood right now. So I am one half of your Broadway recording cast, Tulia Alori. I am a Laurel from the West Kingdom. I am also a court baroness, and I am just really psyched. We've made it a whole freaking year. And so without further ado, I'm going to shift it on over to my gorgeous co-host, Helga, for her intro.
Hi, I'm Helga. I am a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer from the West Kingdom, and you guys have heard that 52 motherfucking times.
Probably more if you count the bonus.
Oh, plus the bonus. I'm sorry, plus the bonus episodes and everything else like that. And so tonight I'm going to give you the rando fact that I was born at midnight.
Oh, that's a good fun fact.
Like just rando fact of like, there you go. Actually, it was technically 11:59 at night is what's on my birth certificate.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so that is definitely one of those weird Helga-based facts. And so with that, I'm going to introduce our amazing, wonderful, stunning powerhouse of a guest, Her Majesty Vera of the West, who has been on the show before and peppered us in questions for one of the bonus episodes because she is just that awesome that we have to keep inviting her back. Miss Vera, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would be delighted. So as they said, I'm Vera, and I have the unbelievable pleasure and honor of being the Queen of the West currently. I am also a Pelican, and I'm a little shocked that I'm back. You know, I did the opening first episode with them, and I got to do a bonus episode and was quite surprised that I was invited back a third time. So hopefully I still can manage to keep y'all entertained tonight.
There is no doubts of that.
Yep.
You are nothing if not entertaining.
It's true.
You know, and gorgeous and intelligent, all those other things that we can put in there.
You're already a duchess. Like, I can't really...
I am not sucking up. I may just need you to call me the #1 champion while being recorded.
Oh, is that what this is about?
I was going to say, I'm not a duchess. You could totally, like, I don't know, give me something.
So with that, I'm going to remind everybody of the drinking rules. Please remember this is an opt-in game, not it's not mandatory to watch the show or be on the show, and you can choose to drink water or anything else that you wish to have in your cup. So tonight's drinking game rules are: drink whenever a host or guest uses a non-SCA name when referring to one another on the show. Drink when somebody's pet appears on camera. Drink when somebody calls for a soapbox or the audience calls us on a soapbox. Drink when somebody mentions spite sprinkles or toe beans. And what is the guest rule of the evening?
So I think my guest rule is going to be drink whenever Helga swears.
Which is all the fucking time.
Is this a challenge not to swear, Your Majesty?
No. I told you I'm in a sassy mood tonight.
If Your Majesty, if you are looking for an excuse to drink, I will make sure that I swear up a blue streak for you.
Just talk as you normally do.
I mean,
fuck.
So, and also with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind people that, remember, likes equal treats, and we get over 100 likes on an episode, and I have to send Baby Ninja's doggo, who is Doggo on Doggo Cam, a box of her very own treats. And I'm going to remind everybody that tonight is the last episode of season 1 of Between Two Peers. We're going to be taking at least a 4-week break for both our crew, our mod team, and the hosts, so we can kind of gather our thoughts and see what is coming in the next chapter. So send in those show ideas, send in people that you would like to see interviewed, If you like a specific format, give us feedback so we can take that all in over the next couple weeks and decide how we want to go forward with this. It has been an amazing ride so far, and I can't wait to see you guys again. So,
All right.
Miss Vera, are you ready for questions?
I am indeed.
All righty. So this is the first question. How did you find the SCA?
So I initially had found the SCA. I'd heard about it when I was in high school, and I had gone out to the only 24-hour restaurant at the time in the two-town area where I lived in rural Eastern Washington. And I saw a bunch of folks dressed up in funny medieval clothes. And I went up and I chatted with them, and I'm like, "Are you part of the SCA?" And they told me yes. But then sadly, they also told me that you had to be 18 to join, which was not true. But I'm guessing a bunch of college students didn't want to deal with a high school student showing up to stuff. But several years later, I had started college myself and went to orchestra right before Halloween. And one of the violinists in my orchestra was in Elizabethans. And I went up to chat with her about it, and she mentioned, yeah. I'm like, "Have you heard of it?" And she goes, "The SCA?" "Yep." She's like, "That's what this outfit is from." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And she said, "Yep." She said, "In fact, we do dance practice every Friday night here on campus in the lobby of one of the dorms. You should come." So I did. And that was 20 some odd years ago. So got hooked, never left.
That sounds right and proper.
Mhm.
All right, with the second one, this one is from Soren, the most handsome of all your princes.
Oh, is he now? I love all my children equally.
It's been declared on the show, so like
We got a lot of people like really trying to like get on your, establish that they're your favorite.
I mean, I am 100% in that contest.
Yeah, you are.
There's 3 of us champions. It's been a running gag.
It has. It's
So,
very entertaining.
from Soren, he asks, over the last year or more of your reign, other than COVID, is there anything that you would have liked to have done differently?
Yes, I would have liked to have had the mental energy to have started and continued a regular workout program over the last year. Truthfully, that is the one thing I wish I had done. But at the same time, I'm cutting myself slack the same way I think we should all cut ourselves slack about the fact that the last year was super stressful. And I think a lot of us looked at ourselves and said, "Oh, I have all this time. I should do this and I should do that." And, just functioning and surviving in social isolation is a lot harder than most people realize. And so I'm cutting myself slack about the fact that I didn't. But that is the thing I really wish I'd done.
Yeah, I feel you. I tried. It didn't last very long. So, yeah. All right, next question. Let me get back to the screen. This one's from Antonio. When everything gets back to normal, what will your next adventure be in the society?
Okay. I'm assuming by once we get back to normal, they mean after I step down?
Probably when we can start having events again. And obviously that will involve you stepping down, I think.
Yeah, so after I step down, what I would actually really like to do is I would like to take some time to focus on my arts. I would very much like to refocus on my scribble and also on my costuming and kind of spend the time diving much deeper into them than I have. I haven't really had the time since His Majesty won. And so I'd like to do that when I have time again.
Mm-hmm. So scribble
and costuming.
I
know. Actually, you and I have talked about this.
I know, and we're local to each other now. We could, when things go back to normal.
Can I come up and join?
Yes. I got a pool, so my house. I guess we'll just have a pool party. We won't really sew. All right, next one.
So this one's from Radar. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Stargate?
Yes. I like all 3. I will not choose. I enjoy all 3. I'm not giving any of them up. Next question.
That's good. I like it. So this is from Santiago. What is the biggest challenge you faced with your respective arts? I guess it's kind of morally our a question we could all answer, but you go.
My biggest challenge with my respective arts. Probably at times finding the motivation to start a new project. Usually once I start, I'm fine finishing it, but sometimes the actual starting is the part. I mean, this is why I have piles of fabric in my house, is I have all these projects, but sometimes just pushing myself to do that first cut with the scissors is a challenge.
No idea what that's like. None.
All right, you ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
This one comes from Leon. What was one thing that being queen was exactly like you expected, and what was one thing that was completely unexpected? Minus the plague.
I was gonna say, because
Minus the plague.
none of us saw that one coming.
Exactly like I expect. I will say court was pretty much exactly like I expected, probably because I had served on many courts and I'd been, the person with, peering between the thrones, handing things. So I kind of knew how all of that ran. Something unexpected. I think, oh God, that's a hard one because it's so many new experiences. I think I'm going to have to go with having people come up to you and express to them kind of the reverence and pedestal with which they hold the queen on, and that you get it on some level, but until you're actually sitting there, there's a huge weight of responsibility to not shatter that for anyone.
And confirm.
I'm just gonna sit here and nod, like I know what I'm talking about, right?
You do though, because you know what it's like. You don't want to shatter anyone's feelings about what it means to be a laurel.
That's true. No, it's true. And I imagine it's 1,000 times harder when you're in the hot seat and everybody's looking at you to, uphold all of the, everything that everybody imbues that ideal with. So yeah, I bet that's pretty high pressure. All right. Next
question.
Okay, so this is from the hosts. A piece of advice you would give someone on the peerage path.
Okay, so a piece of advice I would give is, if you have a peer, talk to them about what you need to do and where you are in your path. If you don't have somebody that you are a formal student with, find somebody or a couple somebodies that you trust that sit on those respective councils that you can talk to about where you're at and what you need and what people are looking for, and kind of where you're lacking. And then there is a way to get your questions answered about what steps you need to take and where you need to go forward, and make sure that you have someone you communicate effectively with, that is giving you straight answers so that you're not kind of stuck muddling around.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note too that you don't have to be a dependent. You have to be like an apprentice, squire, protege, student of anyone. But I think that's it is such a commonality in the way we do what we do that people assume that that's a necessary thing, but it really isn't.
No, it's not. I never had a Pelican. I never had a formal Pelican protege relationship with somebody. I had friends who were Pelicans, and I had a friend who was a Pelican that I spoke with quite a bit about the path and these things, but we never had a formal relationship other than, as part of their oath of fealty of being a Pelican, I was one of the people they were keeping an eye on, as I'm sure a lot of other people were.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so next question up comes from Tink. What is your favorite drink, and what is your favorite drinking game?
So my default drink is gin and tonic, mostly because it's always just so refreshing. I don't know why. I just love them. It's my default drink. So probably my favorite. And then really the only drinking game I play at this point is 3-man. And I've played a lot over this last year. Thanks, Alicia. Sure.
All right. All right. So this one's really a hard one. It still continues to be, like, I think the most contentious question we've asked. on the show at all.
Flat out. This is the most contentious question.
We're asking this one again. Best Bond.
I will admit, I am old school. I love Sean Connery as Bond. But I know I'm going to be weird when I say it, I really liked Timothy Dalton as Bond.
Me too.
I really did. I loved Timothy Dalton. And I know his second movie was not great, but I loved him as Bond. And
Daniel Craig for me. Daniel Craig, I don't know. He's great. I love Daniel Craig, and he's fun to watch, and he's so not like the other Bonds.
And Pierce Brosnan,
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, but Timothy Dalton, he was pretty dreamy. So he's also my favorite Rochester in Jane Eyre. Of all the Jane Eyres, is Timothy Dalton's. So dreamy. Anyway,
if I have a least favorite, I feel like Roger Moore kind of stayed in there a little too long. Maybe passed the mantle a little sooner, but
yeah.
I just want it known that this is still debated on the board. Like, occasionally this question rears its head and everybody just goes right back to war over it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I was actually going to mention, Helga, I almost said your real name. Weren't we going to open something so our friends at Historical Glassworks?
I was actually just going to bring that up because
we're going to do that at the top of the show. Well, we'll do it now.
Our lovely friends at Historical Glassworks have been one of the merchants. Sadly, I do not have my cup with me tonight. One of the merchants that we have absolutely loved running commercials for, or just pimping them out as much as possible. I have many of their pieces, and they sent us a care package that we figured we should open on air. And so, Miss Sassy, there was a letter that came with this. You want to give us the idea behind the letter?
I will read this to everyone. So, to the very sassiest of seamstresses and the most dangerous of all Muppets, please accept these medallions as tokens of our thanks for your wondrous patronage and for all of the kind words that you've spoken of our work on your show. Without our patrons, we would not be where we are today. It is folks like you who keep our dream alive. We also thank you all for the work and dedication that you and your team put into your show every week. You give people a platform in which to be seen and heard, and you give your fellow Scadians a place that they can go to keep their dreams alive through these crazy and uncertain times. Thank you for your service, Master Ali, Arab boy, and Nea Solera, Historical Glassworks.
Man, am I having a feel right now.
I know, I'm having such a huge feel.
And now I get to finally open the box.
I know, right? It's been sitting on my kitchen table for a week, and I've been like, what's in here? What is in here? Oh God, it's taped. What monster tapes these things shut? Especially since
I'm going to get to mine before you do.
No, don't. Okay, so the problem is all my fingernails, I broke every single one of them in the move. So I have no fingernails.
Orphan, if you're watching this show, come rescue me.
Orphan's running with a knife. Open this for me. Thank you, baby.
What a good night.
It's on all sides. It's like opening an oyster here. Thank you. I love you, baby. Okay. And now for the reveal. It's safety pin. Thank God. It's a
glow in the dark.
It's a glow in the dark medallion, laurel medallion. I have been wanting one of these for years and years.
I got the Pell medallion. Yeah, now Vera can't lose me tonight. No. I just need to put it really short.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, exactly.
On a really short night's chain.
Yeah, just really short night's chain, like a dog tag right there.
Oh, which guys, we're huge fans of your work. I've been a huge fan for years, and now I'm excited that we get to be friends in real life. So yay! Thank you.
So before we start in on the questions where all of us are going to answer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind the audience tonight is the last show before we take a break. Send in those sassy questions. Send in those rated R questions. Start dropping those questions in the chat. We are gathering them. We're going to try to get through our mixed questions so we can have a riot of a time answering anything you can throw at us. And yes, that's a goddamn challenge. Everybody drink.
Drink.
So, with no further ado, I want to say his tag online.
Rulov,
otherwise known as Lamp, who is awesome, by the way. For fighters and consorts, what we modified this just a little bit, by the way. What makes watching fighting fun? What about a fighter makes you really just enjoy watching them?
So for me, it is that they are having fun. That's a big part of it for me. If they're enjoying their fight, and that does it. That's what it is for me. There you go. Simple answer.
I think for me, it is definitely if it's, I remember one very particular moment, which I think was this genesis and the start of Helga and my friendship, was I was watching her fight. She was just this rascally little unbelt at the time. And I happened to be standing at the edge of the field, waiting between rounds. And there's this girl, and she's out there in armor, and she's just having the time of her life. And she looked so happy to be there, so energized. So just positive energy, radiating out of this little suit of armor. and I thought it was great. And I came, she was walking off the field, and I kind of intercepted, and I was I really enjoy watching you fight. You just really are a lot of fun to watch. And I think that's it. It's are you having fun? Is the fighter having fun? Are the fights clean? Are the fights even somebody like me who really barely knows what's going on, we can see that, everybody's happy at the end of the fight, no matter which way it went. All of that makes fighting a lot of fun to watch. So, Helga.
Oh, this one is definitely, for me, it's the joy of it. I love watching Hans fight because it's a show. There's always that little extra flair of, you can have some really good technical fights that are very cut and dry, and they're not that much fun to watch. But you watch two fighters that are good and that are also enjoying themselves, and they're letting that bleed over into what they're doing. They're laughing while they're fighting, or they're telling their opponent good shot, or they're just having a rowdy good time. One of the things I love watching Ulf fight, actually, the baby Ulf, because he's just a joy. But also him and I have that relationship on field too, where we just laugh at each other and we throw down. But also there's that little extra bit of flair, because you understand that part of what we do is the audience watching is the gallery, and if the populace believes that it was a good fight, it was a good fight. And so I love watching that too from the outside. So anybody that embodies that for me, I'm just I can sit and watch them fight all day long. So it's that have fun and murder your opponent elegantly.
Your friends, usually, yeah. All right. So next question. This one's from Christine. Would you rather remake all the peerages as Knight of Blank, or give up your peerages?
This was the question I was warning you about.
So by Knight of Blank, it would be Knight of Arts and Sciences, Knight of...
It'd be Knight of... the way that we usually hear it stated is Knight of the Pelican, Knight of the Laurel, Knight of the Chivalry, that, and Knight of Defense, that kind of stuff. Instead of saying the order of, and then you're all, grouped in with kind of, the historical way of the way knighthoods were done, the order of the golden.
Yeah. No, I think I would rather do that one than get rid of peerages. Oh.
I'm actually totally pro turning everybody into knights. I think that it would be. I actually think it would be easier on royalty to hold meetings, because you just call all your knights and then you dismiss the knights that you don't need to discuss about whatever topic. So you leave the knights of the bow, you leave the knights of the horse, you leave the knights of combat. Like there can be subsets, and it's much easier to add parts to it than having to make a whole new order.
Mm.
And it gives a better expanse. And so I'd wait if I could like wave my magic wand and do that for the SCA, I would, because I think that we would actually have a healthier peerage system that way that could grow and expand with how our arts and our sciences and our combat arts have changed over time, and still allow everybody that thing. I'd also like to note that it would probably be Knights of and Masters of. And Masters is the debated word right now, so I can't think of a better one, but it's what comes to mind, of those that swear fealty and those that do not.
Yeah.
But it would be those two subsets.
Yeah, I think my exact same take as these two lovely ladies. It's more historically accurate if we're gonna have this whole discussion, and it just makes more sense. It absolutely streamlines things. It gets rid of the confusion. It gets rid of the they're all equals, but one is more equal than the others. That the perception that the chivalry is just a little bit more equal than the other, orders that came after. I think I wouldn't get rid of it. I would never say get rid of it, because I am a person who needs a challenge and needs something to aspire to. And so for me personally, having the peerage there, or the peerage orders there as something that I could work towards, even if I never got it, but it was a fixed point in my journey where I could say I could get close enough to it, that I could prove to myself that I could rise to that challenge as an artist. And then rise to the challenge, that the social challenge aspect of the peerage, which of course are the peer-like qualities, the PLQs. That to me was really a necessary thing in my development, both in the SCA and just in general as a person. Like I said, I came to the SCA when I was 15, so I was malleable. I was pretty kind of, personality may have been fixed a little bit, but everything else around it was very much moldable. And one of the cool things about the SCA was that did give me a point of reference and kind of a rule book almost. We do get questions actually submitted, like, what are the kind of ways that being a peer or being in the SCA has affected your mundane lives and relationships and things like that. And I always say it completely has. It completely has. I am somebody who operates very comfortably within the SCA rule set, and I apply that outside of it as well. So, but to go back to the peerages, yeah, definitely I would never say get rid of them, because I needed that just as a person. Now, it's not all about me, of course. If there was a poll taken amongst all the SCA people that were members, and they all said get rid of the peerages, well, I would have to suck that up. But I don't think that's actually going to happen, because I've talked to a lot of people that also feel that it's really important to have that as sort of a developmental process in their lives. But yeah, weird little, now I'm rambling. Join in. Somebody save me from myself. Anyway,
next question. We'll save you from the next yourself. Is go to the next question. So this one came from Anonymous. Should a royal give an award to a person they don't get along with?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Flat out, yeah. It's because it's not about you. Like, I think this is one of the biggest things about reigning, is it's not about you. It's about you. You've agreed to be a servant to the kingdom and to acknowledge other people, and it's not about you. And if you walk into this thinking it's about you, then you've failed.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much my answer, is that, royalty are not obligated to give out awards. I mean, they are, as I understand it, it's a huge perk to give out awards and make people feel happy. So they will do that, and to recognize people is a huge gift to be able to do that. I think if there's a personality conflict between somebody reigning and somebody that's up for an award, that is maybe it would put you in kind of a position of, do I want to really? But I also think that when you're royalty, you put personal shit aside. You put personal issues aside as much as you possibly can. And if somebody's up for an award that you don't like, but they've earned that award, all of their peers, big P and little p, say that this person is worthy of that accolade, then, who are you to say, nuh-uh? I mean, you can. It just seems like kind of a dick move. So, so yeah, I would say absolutely. It's because it isn't about you. Exactly. Her Majesty is right. It's not about you. It's about everyone else but you. So, Helga?
I can't put it better than either of you had, and just said, yes, they should give the award because the person is deserving, and set your fucking ego aside. Drink.
I love the pinky up too.
I'm very pinky up tonight. This blonde hair is making me like super pinky up. I'm not sure what the hell's going on.
I'm gonna try and I realized that there's a ribbon that was sent with this, it was tied around it. That's what it is.
Oh yeah,
Now this is going to be like the next 20 minutes of me trying to fiddle with this and get this on
exactly where you
all of my crap already.
Oh no, this is happening. I am following your lead here, Miss Sassy. So while that happens, do you want to read the next show or the next question? Not the next show.
Yes. All right. So if you could go back and tell yourself one thing before the pandemic started, what would it be?
Buy toilet paper. Don't let yourself get down. Okay, which sounds ridiculous, but I usually shop at Costco for things like toilet paper. And I was right when the pandemic hit I need to restock on toilet paper because I was down to like 2 rolls in my house. So I had this mad scramble, and luckily I found a pack, but I was like, am I going to run out of toilet paper before more shuts up in the stores? And so now I'm paranoid about it.
I think everybody's going through toilet paper paranoia. Like that is.
Oh yeah. Hardcore. Everybody's going through toilet paper paranoia.
We were cleaning out our house, our old house, a couple of days ago, and Thorfinn was going through one of the closets, and he pulls out this giant box. He's like, "Did you know we had like an 18 roll box of toilet paper in here?" Like, I had no clue. It predates the pandemic as well, so it must have been something like at least a year to 2 years old or something.
Oh my god!
Like this whole
I managed to get mine, Sassy, so now you got to get yours.
I know.
So I'm going to say that the toilet paper thing was real. But also I didn't have to worry about that because the lady of the lake, we made fun of her before the pandemic happened.
Did you get a tushy?
No, like the lady of the lake there was always extra toilet paper in the house. We were never out. She would go shopping at Costco and then come back with more. And we'd be like, what? Why do we need this much toilet paper? She had a sixth sense going on. Like, I will never, ever, ever make fun of her about that again. I groveled so hard for a while where I was just like, yep, nope, you were right. You were 100% right. My bad. I'm now going to mimic this behavior. But what if I could tell myself one thing before the pandemic started, what would it be? Is people are not prepared to be kind to themselves. So be extra kind in the process while they're learning how to do it. Because many people had coping mechanisms outside of their own head that they no longer had access to. And so it would be very much so like remind people early on that we are going to go through a phase where none of your coping mechanisms work. And you're going to end up facing down a lot of your damage real quick. So be kind and be kind early about it. Make sure your friends eat and take your vitamin D, God damn it.
I could go back and tell myself one thing before the pandemic started. You're going to go through a lot of emotions. And, if someone like me who's pretty comfortable being a homebody, it took me about, I don't know, it took me probably 6 months in until I really kind of had my first meltdown. It hurt Thorfinn a lot more because he's such a huge extrovert and was so used to just being around other people and having, you know, activities to do every weekend and people to see at his day job and all that stuff. And I was mostly like, I'm totally cool just being in this little hole. But yeah, that to just be aware that there's going to be a whole like roller coaster of emotions. Mine was a bit longer in the buildup, and his was very much sooner. And that's all natural. It's all normal, and it's not weird. And it's also okay if you just kind of mentally peace out for a while. To go easy on yourself. Don't hold yourself to that ridiculous standard of, you know, you're not doing anything, you have so much time, but you're not doing anything. That just leads to a lot of emotional anguish that you honestly don't need in the middle of a pandemic. So yeah, be easy, go easy on yourself. Which is like literally like the number one advice I give to everybody almost in every situation, which I never apply to myself. So take that as you will. But I think finally I did. I think I finally lightened up on myself considerably, probably around the fall. I kind of just had that moment of, okay, well, we're still here and it's not going away anytime soon. So let's just stop trying to, you know, berate yourself into doing more things when you're just kind of, it's okay to just check out. So.
Sorry for the shaky cam. I'm having to readjust everything because I'm not in my normal setup.
Okay. Next one's yours.
Yes. Sorry, I was thinking my leg was falling asleep, so I had to fix it. So the next question, because it's not between two peers without a little bit of weirdness going on, okay? This one comes from Luxa. What is an essential camp item for you?
A very comfortable, warm bed. Like if I'm camping, I do not want to be cold when I'm trying to sleep. It's just makes the whole event sucky. And I have found that the elevated bed, so that when your tent floods at Estrella with inches of water, your bed is still dry and you can climb into bed and still be warm and sleep. That is my essential
Float
item.
away. I think my essential camp item, coffee and a way to brew it. Either that or I'll wander over to like any number of camps that I know where I have friends that know that I'm pathetic and I can just hold my cup out and make a sad face and they give me coffee in the morning because nice people. Let's see. Aside from that, and the bed is really important. I'd actually say a canvas tent. You know, it doesn't have to be historically accurate. It doesn't have to be perfectly period, but it was a game changer. Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass to set up, but in the hot Californian weather, they stay much cooler than nylon tents. And then they hold up really well in rain, and there's nothing like hearing a rainstorm on a canvas tent. It's so cozy. Yeah. Okay.
Essential camp item for me. Can I say my household? I mean, because I'm just gonna say that I've got an Auntie Vera who is amazing and shows up with gin and tonics and sass, and a Jared who is my fucking war buddy extraordinary drink. Who's my war buddy extraordinaire, where any trouble I can get into, he can match me, and we're just gonna match stride for stride and just go cause havoc. And then I've got my really hot husband, and Marissa, who is my rock in life. The twins, who are sassy and becoming intelligent, vivacious teenagers that are vibrant spots in our universe and just keep things going and also keep me strangely grounded because they call me on my bullshit all the time. Like, and then there's Dwen, who is just this beacon of light and hope, like constantly. And then we've got Keen and Kate, who are smart and funny and just zero fucks about like things, and then we've got Dominique and Grant, who are giving and kind.
Just use mundane names.
So, but I'm just gonna say, but if I can't say my household, but you know, just to make sure that they all got the shout out they deserve, essential camp item, I'm gonna say my mug. I can pretty much get away with anything as long as I've got a mug with me.
You know, as soon as I said bed, my next thought was about the household too, and a big part of it was Jared and a Hansa to make midnight grilled cheese.
Right, or a Vera to make cheese apocalypse happen.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, like I actually don't have a big household, and I haven't had a big household since I was a teenager. There's been attempts at kind of forming them in the years I've been active. We had a pretty okay stretch for a number of years in the middle aughts or the teens, but then people moved away and other people broke up. That would be me. So obviously that was, you know, all went by the wayside. And I'm kind of actually enjoying it just being like me and Thorfinn, and we camp where we feel like camping, and we camp with who we want to camp with, and or we don't. We just camp by ourselves, and we just go to different camps and hang out. So there is something to say for just not having a household, but there's a big part of me that does miss it, and we're talking about getting the band back together at some point. So, but yeah. Household culture is also one of those weird things that like the West is real spotty with. It's very, very established in other kingdoms, but in the West, it's like there are a handful, but then most people kind of just are like Thorfinn and me, you know, we sort of roam around, we're a little nomadic. Camp with people.
We go back and forth, like between nomadic and like super tight knit, which is it's more like we make family pods. Is really I think like the West makes little family pods, and it depends on what event it is which family pod you're with. You've got like your war family pod, and you've got your like crown family pod, and so there's like these weird like there's these niches that you create within your social structures to like where you're camping.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I think that's a really good thing for the West too, because it means that we spread out through our culture. Like our culture isn't like, oh, this household always camps over here, and this household always camps over here. It's like, oh no, like these, like everybody has a relatively open camp.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there are a couple that are very, you know, like Wolfenstein and, you know, actually you see them a lot more at wars. You see a lot more fighting units that kind of all camp together, and it's specifically at wars. And then otherwise they're just kind of all scattered to the four winds throughout most of the rest of the tourney season, like the Angels, the Ermine Company, Griffins, you know, all of those guys, they all very tight knit when it comes to war. And then very much just like, well, we'll camp here when we camp here at this event. So,
yeah.
All right, let's move on. Constance asks, favorite type of tent?
As in pavilion versus nylon, or
maybe style?
Okay. Well, my personal favorite is definitely canvas over nylon. I personally love any tent that I didn't have to set up because I am spoiled by some amazing household members who not only haul my pavilion to events, but it is usually set up before I arrive just because they love me. I'm staring at you right now.
I mean, you make the bar happen, I make your house happen, you make the bar happen. I feel
like it's a fair trade. So I have a Regent, you know, the square with the mitered core, and that's the only pavilion I've ever had. It's worked well for me. It's worked well for me when I was in a relationship and there were two of us in it. I don't know if I'd want something different. I'm used to it. It's comfy. It's pretty easy up and down. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
So I'm gonna go with, I actually like the Regents a lot. Like, because we build an internal structure in the Regents, so they can stand without ropes, and so we can pack our Regents in like the entire household now basically has them. And so super easy to set up, easy to house extra people in. They look good, and you can paint them for multiple people, or like multiple. There's just so much surface to paint on. Like, my words just failed me there. Sorry. But you can fancy them up without too much extra. And I like that I can stand fully up in them. Like, I really like the Viking wedges for like quick and dirty camping. Like, I need to make this spot, and this spot needs to stay dry. But they're always like, I must stand exactly in the middle to stand up fully. And so I like the Regents because I can stand all the way up, and like walk around my tent.
I camped in pretty much every kind of tent, and I had a Regent for a long time, and still going strong. It went with my ex. It's my tent, but I told him he could have it because it was 26 years old at that point, and I was like, please. The great thing about Regents, like everybody has already said, is that they have a lot of space. There's a lot of a lot of headroom. We had 7-foot uprights, I think, with like 9-foot horizontal bars. So there was a lot of square footage that could be used in it. The drawback of that is I think they're a pain in the ass to put up, and I hate it. And I was so when Helga and I were picking this question, immediately my answer was, well, the tent that I don't have to set up or tear down. That's really what it is. I'm short. It's a whole thing. So I can't put tents up by myself, no matter how easy, unless we're talking like it's literally a lean-to with a couple of sticks, which not likely to be camping in. Just saying. Hotel room is my other favorite kind of, but I'm actually becoming much more fond of that Saxon wedge that my boyfriend came with in the relationship. So it's much easier to set up, and he's got this little system where he basically does 95% of it, and I don't have to. And also, I will say though that if you are in a relationship with somebody, establish the system of how the tent goes up and comes down and who does what. Get that really clear, because I'd say in my experience 95% of fights will happen during setup or tear down. Mm-hmm. So knowing where you're supposed to be and what your role is key to happiness when it comes to SCA relationships. But yeah, hotel rooms are pretty good.
Hotel rooms are awesome. And so I actually have a segue, or like a weird side story on that one. So I had a friend visit at one point, and this is when I was queen, and like we're tearing through the trailer and setting up, and Vera, you were here for this. And like all of our household is super used to, like, it doesn't matter who is reigning, it doesn't matter what position you're in, everybody throws down to set up. Mm-hmm. This person was from out of kingdom and literally lost their mind. They were like, you are queen. What the fuck are you doing touching a hammer or setting up your own pavilion or anything like that? And I'm like, welcome to the West. Go get shit out of the trailer. Like, but it's really funny because like our entire household has actually figured out how we work together for that. Like, we don't tend to fight about like, oh, who's doing what job. It's like, cool, this tent is up. Cool, go set up the inside of your tent. Now the rest of us go locust this tent. And by the time we're done locusting this tent, that person is done getting their stuff out of their vehicle and parked, and they come over and they help like with the next tent. And so we like rotate through the entire encampment that way. And it's kind of a good system. And then once everybody's tent's up, then it's like, okay, free range, go actually do all the fiddly bits inside your own tent. None of us do that for each other. But it works really, really well.
Yeah, and I usually break down and I start making sure everyone's eating and drinking something during teardown or setup.
Never set up or tear down hangry. It's not fun. A little bit of a buzz though.
In that story, it actually came out to like, well, they're like, well, there's blue jobs and pink jobs, and pink jobs are like, you do the inside of the tent, and blue jobs are like, the guys set up the tent. And I'm like, okay, I need you to understand, pink jobs and blue jobs don't exist in my household at all. And so there's either you're swinging a hammer or you're handing people food. Doesn't matter what you're packing in your pants. Just so you know.
I mean, the way it works out with me is it is definitely my job to do the interior, and I'm fine with that because I'm too short to really do any of the hard, like upright putting together of infrastructure and all that stuff. And these little chicken arms aren't really good at nailing things into the ground. So it's easier for me just to say, well, that's the thing that I do. I never really put a gender spin on it though. It was just I can handle this part. I will volunteer to do that. So
it was just one of my favorite ones ever where I was like, breaks.
Yeah.
What? Like, I think the entire household just stopped for a moment and was like, we don't work that way. And then just went right back to what we were doing. All
right.
right, so are you ready for the last scheduled question of the evening?
Yeah.
So the last scheduled question of the evening before we get into guest or chat submitted questions, reminder, cough, cough, submit those questions, comes from Patrona. Oh my God, I want to like say Patrona and then I think of like the white deer that's, badly animated.
It's spelled Patrona though, isn't it? Yeah, it's spelled Patrona.
Yeah, okay.
Don't worry.
This is me and having name anxiety again.
Don't. You were right.
Pleasure that you actually feel guilty about.
I'm sorry, could you reread the question? I didn't hear the first part.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure that you actually feel guilty about?
That I actually feel guilty about?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've kind of gotten over feeling weird about any of my guilty pleasures. Maybe some of the trashy romance, like reading trashy romance novels. We'll go with that one. Yeah, there's still an element of I should be ashamed that I read these horrible books, but they're just the best when you're on vacation.
Right?
Guilt is a wasted emotion.
That's my thing. I'm like, I don't feel guilty about this stuff anymore. Like,
I'm
got over that in my 30s.
Yeah, I can't think of a thing I enjoy that I'm guilty about. Like, yeah. I'm a little like, not, what's the word? Bashful isn't quite the right word, but a little like, you probably don't want to be here. When I get on one of my serial killer documentary flicks around my boyfriend, because he's just not really into that. And I always kind of feel like, I actually did have a boyfriend that was just like, why do you want to watch this? This is awful. Like, well, because I don't know, it's really intensely fascinating, and a lot of women actually really find them interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I really do feel like I got over that in my 30s.
Yeah, I also basically I'm like, I don't care what you think about what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
So a guilty pleasure that I actually feel guilty about. I don't feel guilty about much. If y'all haven't figured that out watching this show, currently though, I'm gonna go with currently is so Hans and I were raised in two different generations of like, so I'm definitely a millennial where like I want background noise, and so like the TV on is background noise. I will watch trashy shows, like just terrible trashy fantasy shows, and I'm not paying attention. Like I'm doing art or something else like that, and I feel like occasionally I get pangs of guilt because I understand that he's like, why don't you just read a book? Like I'm like, because I'm arting or I'm doing something else or I'm like fucking off on my phone and like decompressing, or like it's like I don't want to. Like I'm doing something else to get my mind engaged, and like I'm painting a shield or something. Like I watched from beginning to end Supernatural.
Season 1, I was like, I get why people enjoy the show.
Season 4 is too real, by the way, because season 4 is like the end of the world too real, and they make the toilet paper reference in there right there. And I was watching that right during the toilet paper shortage, and I was like, whoa, too close to home. Way too close to home. But I adore shows like that. Like I'm binge watching Stargate right now, and I'm binge watching it in the fact that I'm also like trying to paint or art or like do work projects or something else like that. And so occasionally I feel a little guilty about that because I'm like creating background noise in his life where I'm just like, oh, this quiets my brain because I'm ADD as fuck versus you are not.
You know what's funny is Thorfinn actually likes background. Thorfinn likes background noise. He'll have something going in every room. And he's the same generation as Hans. So
I really think it comes down to like quiet brains versus noisy brains. And he's
well, my brain is super noisy anyway, but I just get used to like the internal hum of it. In fact, actually, weirdly, I have very slight tinnitus, and sometimes I'll just put headphones on that don't. I'm not playing anything in them. All it does is block out all the noise around me, and I just hear like the very slight ringing in my ears. And honestly, weirdly comforting for me. So.
Oh my god! And see, when I get that, I'm just like, I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah, most people can't stand it. For me, I'm like, I kind of like the internal hum of my brain. I think I'll just go with it. What was the question again?
We're actually through questions. Besides the guilty pleasure that you feel guilty about, you get to answer that.
Oh no, I did. I said.
Oh, no, I did. Sorry, I asked that question, so I went last.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna get into guest submitted
Well,
questions.
do you want to do the commercial break and then do the submitted questions?
Sounds fantastic.
All righty, take it away, Baby Ninja.
D-Stash Central is your home for consignment sales of SCA items. Buyers, improve your SCA kit with items no longer commercially available. Dress your growing kids without spending a fortune. Get started in this hobby for less. Sellers, when it is time to let go of those projects that will never be made, the garb that is no longer worn, or just time to reduce the stash, D-Stash Central will help you rehome your items. You can find them online at www.dstash.us or on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/dstashus. Happy shopping! Painted Sky Pottery creates unique, medievally inspired pottery. From Roman phallic Samian ware to 16th century proper costrals, they make it all. And with everything from plain terracotta to bright glazes, you are sure to find the perfect piece. As we head into the Yule gifting season, you might find just this right item for that special someone. You can find them on Facebook at Painted Sky Pottery. Two Baronesses is your home for buttons, brooches, pins, Winnengas and hooks, mittens, scarves, and custom appliqued heraldic tabards and gonfalons. You can even buy buttons in bulk for large projects, perfect for the cotehardy or household livery. You can find them online at badbaroness.com. That's badbaroness.com. Happy shopping! D-Stash Central is your home for consignment sales of SCA items. Buyers, improve your SCA kit with items no longer commercially available. Dress your growing kids without spending a fortune. Get started in this hobby for less. Sellers, when it is time to let go of those projects that will never be made, the garb that is no longer worn, or just time to reduce the stash, D-Stash Central will help you rehome your items. You can find them online at www.dstash.us or on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/dstashus. Happy shopping! Painted Sky Pottery creates unique, medievally inspired pottery. From Roman phallic Samian ware to 16th century proper costrals, they make it all. And with everything from plain terracotta to bright glazes, you are sure to find the perfect piece. As we head into the Yule gifting season, you might find just this right item for that special someone. You can find them on Facebook at Painted Sky Pottery. Two Baronesses is your home for buttons, brooches, pins, Winnengas and hooks, mittens, scarves, and custom appliqued heraldic tabards and gonfalons. You can even buy buttons in bulk for large projects, perfect for the cotehardy or household livery. You can find them online at badbaroness.com. That's badbaroness.com. Happy shopping! D-Central is your home for...
Hi, we're back. And I'm just going to publicly state this at some point, and we should all have a discussion around it, is that I think that, like the whiskey tasting, we should do a cheese apocalypse where the buy-in to get through the gate is you have to bring a cheese that you can't buy at Safeway.
Or Albertsons.
Give it to the bar, and we do cheese tasting with an open bar, and that's an SCA gathering point. Because I think that would be super fun. I will 100% throw down to run that because I think that would be hilarious.
Oh, you're speaking
to actually eat.
Speaking my lingo, I love cheese.
Right. And also before we get into the chat submitted questions, since this is the last episode of season 1 of Between Two Peers, we have right now gone through 651 questions. I went and counted everything up. Wow. There is only 10 repeats in that.
Are these the questions that we've asked on the show?
Asked live on the show.
Wow.
So I want to thank everybody. Those are questions that have been submitted by the audience. This is proof that we could not do this without you. There is no way that Sassy and I could come up with 651 questions without you. And this does not count all the other questions that we haven't used yet. So thank you very much to our audience for allowing us to do this and giving us a platform to do it with.
Yay. And I feel like we're like PBS and viewers like you. What was that? You want me to do that? Oh, that's it. I get the next one. All right. So our intrepid background assistant, Katrina, has been moving things around all of these questions. So we got some really good ones. This is from Baroness Morgan. What was your biggest, oh fuck, what just came out of my mouth moment out of the last 52 episodes? So we can modify that a little bit and we'll just say on any show, because Vera wasn't on all 52 of these, but
I don't really have one on a show, but I do have a moment where I had that happen to me. Several years ago, I was on a date with a guy, and he's being very sweet, and he's like, "You're beautiful, and you're sexy, and you're smart and intelligent," and talking me up, and I just go, "Yep, I'm the complete package," and I just went. Those words just flew out of my mouth. In the middle of a date. And he was like, "Yeah, you are." And he continued on like it didn't even faze him. But that's I can't believe I just said that moment.
So I'm going to go with a couple serious ones. On the show, I've talked about my sexual assault. I've talked about the fact that I'm dyslexic. And so a lot of those oh shit, what the fuck came out of my mouth moments was actually the really true, very raw me. And then I was just like, I just said that to an audience that's recorded and I can't hide that anymore. And so I'm going to say oh, fuck, that just came out of my mouth has actually been some of the best things of this show. Because we just lost Sassy. Sassy down! It took an hour and 4 minutes before her camera failed. So I'm just going to continue to say that it's been actually some of the most real moments for me was welcome back, Sassy.
Hi. My internet sucks.
Well, baby ninja now scrambles to try to fix everything. Yes, on point. Because it's not a Between Two Peers episode without some technical glitch.
I think that's just endearing.
So realistically, those oh fuck moments that just came out of my mouth have actually turned into some of the coolest, most empowering moments of my life. Where I've owned some of my own damage and given other people power through them.
Are you guys now I have to answer it?
Yep.
Oh fuck. I've done the misgendered somebody on the show, which I was horrified by, and I apologize profusely. And they were incredibly kind, and I've also done the I accidentally dropped a actually pretty offensive colloquialism that is very commonly used in our society, but is really not okay. I used the term powwow for meeting, we're gonna have a powwow, and then as soon as I said that, I was like, oh shit. And that was recently, that was within probably 3 or 4 shows ago, maybe. And it's funny, it just drops out of your mouth sometimes. You're just like, and then fuck. But recognizing that you did that and apologizing for it and being better, moving on. And it was something actually Helga, our boss, said to me one time, which she said it was something like the stop light or the stop sign rule, which is, everybody blows a stop sign at some point and they get away with it, no harm, no foul, but don't get caught up in looking back at that stop sign you blew and end up causing a bigger problem, on down the road. So I thought that was a pretty good analogy, words to live by, which is accept you fucked up, don't dwell on it, just going forward, just don't do it again or do better. Try not to do it again. So yeah, I'd say those are like the two major things that came out of the show. And they're just general life things too. I've accidentally misgendered people in real life, and I have accidentally said some, culturally appropriative, not so cool shit that just fell out and realized, oh fuck. And then weirdly enough, haven't done it since. So you can make that mental note. It can exist in your brain, and you cannot, you can make that change, and it will, it sticks. So, yeah. Okay, so I know I had to restart everything. Do I have the next question?
No, I think I do.
Okay, because I'm still trying to open up the document that has our actual questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I've got it. I'm actually marking things with Sassy versus Raya because I can.
You said your own name. Neener.
Oh my god! I just. Also, my friend is not allowed to make me another drink because. So Bridget asks, "What's your favorite gin?"
Oh, that's a great question.
Okay, so it really depends on what I'm drinking, how I'm mixing it. So if I'm doing a gin and tonic with lime, I usually go Tanqueray. If I'm really in the mood to be like slapped upside the head with a juniper bush, I get Beefeater, because that's what my grandfather drank, and I used to drink that straight with him over ice. I know, don't judge me. If I'm doing cucumber in the G&T, which is delicious, if you've never done this, you should try it. Hendrix is the way to go with that one. But it depends on the cocktail you're making. Different ones for different cocktails, but there's always Tanqueray in my house.
Yeah, we're a Tanqueray household. It's not my favorite gin. It is a good mid-range, mid-price gin that's got enough character to it but is also still inoffensive. So it's basically one of those kind of gins that it works really well in gin and tonics. But my favorite gin, like if I would specifically go out and purchase something nice for me, I think it's got to be St. George Botanique. That St. George is a distillery in Alameda, which is, up the road from us. And they make killer distilled beverage or liquors. They were gin and vodka, I think, for a long time. And then they were one of the very first, if not the first in the United States to start producing a absinthe when it was finally re-legalized after 100 years of ridiculous illegality. But they make fantastic gins, and but I like their Botanique and their Terroir are both really, really good, and they're super pricey. So just treat yourself. I also really like the Hendrix Black, just like kind of the standard, but also again a little bit higher price point. I find that like a Hendrix and tonic with a cucumber is holy crap. So good. And I was introduced to that by your king, Vera, our king as well, Uther, at your stepping up at that 12th night. We came up to your guys's, his room. We came up to his room, and he was all, do you want a cocktail? And I'm like, I'm never going to refuse a cocktail. And so he made me a Hendrix and tonic with a slice of cucumber in it. It was the first time I'd ever had that, and my mind was blown. I'd only ever had like really harsh gins with really crappy kind of, you know, store, like the bog standard store aisle tonics, you know, and lime, which I'm not a fan of. Like all three of those things I'm not a fan of, but he makes me this fantastic you know, Hendrix and tonic with like a nice tonic and a cucumber, and I'm like, oh, I like this drink, like I actually like this drink. For a long time I swore that gin and tonics are just awful, and I could never drink it. I'm a super taster, so like number one, a really aggressive gin is like licking a juniper bush, which is not pleasant for me, and a really like aggressive tonic is like stomach acid. It tastes like bile to me. So I've gotten in trouble with people for saying that. They got horribly offended. I'm not knocking what you like. I'm not yucking your yum. I'm just saying that that literally is what it tastes like to me, is, you know, stomach acid. So it's not exactly a pleasant flavor. I've gotten a little bit more used to it, but right now what I drink and what this is it's a Tanqueray, because like I said, we're a Tanqueray standard household, and a La Croix, a lime La Croix in it, or La Croix, or however the heck they pronounce it. I always say it like La Croix, like it's La Croix, darling, but I think it's La Croix is how they pronounce it. Anyway, the little fizzy water drinks, and it's pleasant. So that was my long-winded way of saying, whatever you got, I'll drink.
Queen's Courage Gin.
Mm.
Hands down my favorite. And I can only get it on the East Coast.
Wonder if we could order it.
They won't. I've tried to order it. It's a pain in the ass to get. And I got one bottle that was given to me by a very dear friend, and that was the best gin I have ever had.
Did you ever try the Beefeater strawberry?
I have not.
Beefeater did a strawberry flavored gin that I actually picked up for your strawberry party, but it never got open for your strawberry party. And for New Year's this year, I cracked it open and mixed it with strawberry kiwi juice.
Ooh, I bet that's tasty.
There was a lot.
A little bit of strawberry lemonade, and oh my God. It was a fabulous New Year's Eve for being home. That's all I'm saying.
Nice.
You having a good time?
Had a really good time.
All right, we ready for the next one?
Sure.
That one would be you, Sarah.
Oh, right.
Oh, sorry.
I'm glad I started drinking late in this game. Hold on, let me drink. All right. Next one, and this one's from our dear brother, Baron Logan, of Ask the Knights Live. Your Majesty and illustrious hosts, it's been a long, strange trip for the entire known world. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again? Why or why not?
Yes, I would. For a lot of reasons, but one is being able to be here for everyone has been one of the great privileges of my life. And the faith and trust that people have put into us over the last year is really priceless to me. And so, yeah, I would do it again. Absolutely.
Helga?
I am currently cutting and pasting a question into the list, sorry. Oh man, how heavy-handed do you want my answer on this one, Your Majesty?
Do it.
I would not trade the experiences for my own life. I would trade every experience for everybody else's life that's been lost. The pandemic has forced me to grow and forced me to do stuff. And Sassy drug me onto this show, and it has made me a better peer. It has made me more aware of my words. It has made me more conscious of my decisions and how they affect other people. this pandemic and everything that's come out of it has made me more aware of the inequalities of our world, and how I play a role in them. I would not trade those lessons for a lot. I would go back to being naive if I could bring back everybody this is taken from us. And so that's a very hard question for me, because I've lost people due to this. I've grown myself, but that feels selfish in my answer, because I got to survive it and he didn't.
I don't know.
Pew pew, super heavy-handed answer there, sorry.
I couldn't give a better answer than either of these two. I just think that as personal growth goes, really lucky. In that doing the show has made some friendships, like deepened a lot of friendships. It's made some friendships. I think Helga and I are closer than we ever have been. And I've met awesome people. Baby Ninja is one of those that I don't think I maybe ever would have really known, maybe in passing, but these good people. And the community that the show has brought is just, I never would have expected this to be the outgrowth of this really kind of dumb idea that I had drinking cocktails one night with my boyfriend and talking about all the shit that, we're not going to be able to do for a whole year at least. And even, as far back as March, we knew that this was probably going to be something that we were going to be stuck in for a long time. So I just thought that maybe this is a way to amuse ourselves, to kind of fill the gap of what the SCA filled in our lives in person. And that's kind of what happened, but all of this other stuff happened along with it that I was just not anticipating. Getting this community that I never would have thought there would have been. I figured people would watch. I figured people would, comment. I just didn't anticipate there to be like an actual, couple hundred people that participate on our Discord server and on Facebook and, watch the show. And it never would have expected that. So I would do it. It's a hard question to answer right now, because I think I for one, personally, I'm pretty burnt out. I'm just going to be honest. I'm pretty burnt out. The show takes a lot to do. And I'm not even doing all of it. I'm only doing probably 1/4 of what, all the stuff that needs to get done on the show it requires. And it is something that's very, very intense for this little introvert, who passes really well as an extrovert. So I don't think I realized that would be something that would be a real kind of physical effect of the show, which was, I thought it was going to be fun. It was going to be something that we just do on a whim, and it's going to be, what it is. And it's all of those things, but it also ended up being very, very, very emotionally labor intensive. And a lot of really good emotional growth came out of that, but also I'm just tired. I'm really tired. And so that's why when we decided, Helga and I discussed it, and we were like, well, let's take a break. Let's take that 1 month off and see what comes out of just having a little bit of distance and having a little bit of time to ourselves and not being so, bound up in making every single weekend so awesome for everybody. And I think that, what happens next, I'm excited to see what happens next. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know, but that's kind of life. So yeah. All right, next question.
That means that's your next question.
Yeah.
I like how we made that question way more serious than it was.
Well, that's between two peers. Got some.
That's between two peers, where we ask a really nonchalant question where all of us are like, hold on, let me unpack this.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, hang on. That would be my question. My bad. I'm sorry. This one comes from Crystal. If you were to blah 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 blah, 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 blah. Blah. Sorry. If you're going to host a fandom-based event that mixed a fandom into the SCA event, which fandom would you choose, and what character would you be cosplaying?
Ooh, a fandom to join. Ooh. Okay, so there's so many options. It like goes so wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, okay, I know it's been done and I find it really funny every time it happens, but when you have the Star Trek people who show up at Ren Fair and pretend that they're and then you have the Ren Fair people who like flash their credentials and are like, do you know what you were doing to this pre-developed I love it. I think it's hilarious, and I would laugh so hard if I saw that at an SCA event. That's my answer. Gotta go with it.
That would have been kind of my answer as well. Is I would have loved to be like, we're on the Starship Enterprise and we're in the holodeck, because that's kind of what I feel like the events actually are. Is we are people who are interacting in a simulation a lot of times.
I will admit, I have thought it would be funny to do an event that had sort of some like a quest aspect where you have like a little light up question mark above somebody's head and you have to go to them to get a quest.
Oh my god, basically do a wow.
Yes.
Like you're just standing there with a question mark over your head.
That would be amazing.
That would be epic. I would help host that because I think that would just be super fun.
Actually, Baby Ninja in the background had a really funny idea, which, said D&D. He was all like, he had a Baby Ninja, you want to make your mic live and contribute?
So for anybody who's played D&D long enough, I know D&D and the SCA go hand in hand. You do old school, like, first edition D&D where you go, okay, you are this thing, so you give them their weapons. You give the artisans... You find a bard, right? You give them an actual instrument and go, cool, you have these spell slots. You take a duke who is way too into this, like Thorfinn. You're the dragon, Thorfinn. They have to kill you and just watch what happens. Give them foam weapons for kicks and giggles and just watch the chaos ensue. Because somebody is going to take this way too far and run around with a giant wizard's hat and get clobbered by a duke, and we're all going to laugh about it.
I love that idea. That actually is great. So back to the my real answer though, other than like definitely the Star Trek Enterprise crew coming to the ye olde times, would be Doctor Who. I'm a Whovian, and I, of course, would be the companion. Yes. No. I probably wouldn't be. I'd be an NPC, like in every single situation.
Now I kind of want you to get a police box that sits at the front of your pavilion, and so you're always popping out.
They do that at Pennsic.
There's actually a guy in here in Northern California who, during the Ren Fair, he cosplays the 10th Doctor. And he would show up with a box, like a portable police box. And he was pretty good, actually. He was a really, really good 10th Doctor, looked really good. But you could always be up. And so at the time I was in the Courtesan Guild with in Ren Fair. It's different than in the SCA, not the same thing. But the courtesans, belladonna courtesans, and we would always be Il Dottore, you're here, And he would play along with us, and we'd play along with him. And several of us had massive crushes on 10th Doctor, so he was pretty popular. But Helga, what's your answer?
So I'm so mixed on my answers now because I'm really stuck on like the WoW versus like first edition D&D quest giving. And then I'm gonna have everybody just look at my makeup and my face and my motherfucking personality. Drink. And I'm going to say the Jason Momoa Conan mixed with the SCA. And you want to know who I'm going to goddamn cosplay is Conan.
Yeah, you are.
Baroness Anne just chimed in on the chat and said that I should be the doctor.
Yeah, I agree.
Stop.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with like the Jason Momoa Conan like world. Smashed him with the SCA, and I'm 100% gonna cosplay Conan and just sit in that throne of drinking and women and just have a rowdy good time and smash all the.
What is best in life?
What is best in life? I will live that. I will take my glasses off like Thorfinn.
Oh my gosh, that was a great question. Actually, so
Yeah.
that was a really, really, really good question.
Yes.
Everybody's going to be one of those women. I think.
I mean, I promise that I treat my throne of women well. Like, you will be well fed, and I will help get you in shenanigans.
And you'll bring them all to Auntie Vera's Gin Shade for cocktails.
I mean, that's where my throne of women is.
That's actually accurate.
You're going to have a throne of women?
No, I'm going to say a throne with women, not of women, because really, like, sitting on people and making them be my throne is not really my...
It's not your jam.
It's not my public kink. So we're going to go with that. Like, and so what I'm going to say is that, like, I want to make a really nice place like that big Casbah that they were all sitting in.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I want. I'm just going to sit back and lounge, and people can lounge with me, and we will drink and we will party, and then we will fight, and there will probably be a lot of hookups, all with consent. So everybody talk before they're sober, because you all have heard my rant on that before.
Nice.
I mean, Cheesepocalypse, hello. We're at Auntie Vera's Gin Shack with Cheesepocalypse. Like, this is the perfect day. Fight, food, cheese, drink, women, hot men. Also, like, my throne is multi-gender. Thank you.
All are welcome.
All is welcome upon my throne of furs and awesomeness.
I love how you're even just like, yeah.
I'm just gonna sit there and embody, like, please, come join me.
You know, I know Takashi in high school. That absolutely fits 100%. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Let's see. All right.
So the next one up is yours.
Yes. Let's see. We just did that. Okay. This one's again from Baron Logan. Now that it looks like things are getting closer to us being able to have in-person events again, do you think that virtual events will continue to be a large part of our hobby? That's a good question.
I don't know about large part, but I really hope that they will continue to be a part of our hobby. Especially for the arts and sciences side of things. Being able to teach a class or attend a class on some obscure thing that you're really into, but it's not a lot of people are into it, but then being able to pull in people from the whole known world to talk about something is fabulous. You know, being able to exchange ideas and have classes with all of these people is awesome. And not having to get on an airplane and travel, you know, to Penzig if that's out of your reach financially, but still being able to participate, I think is a fabulous thing. You know, some of the online bardics, which, you know, as a musician myself, I know it's a very strange platform to try to perform to a camera and a microphone versus a live audience. You don't get the same feedback, but I've been on some fabulous bardic circles during this, and I hope some of that continues too. So, yeah. And then you add in all the other shows, the interviews and the fighting breakdown classes, and I think people are going to want some of this to continue. I know it's going to be different once people's weekends are again taken up with going to in-person events. So I'm not sure how much of it will continue on, but I do hope some of it does.
Agreed.
Helga.
So I don't think it's going to be this same large part of our hobby, because this is how we're surviving. This is our current coping mechanism. Because really the SCA is a very large community that likes to continue to touch other parts of the community. I'm hoping that we take the best parts of it and continue to use it. So I'm hoping that what we do is we take this as an excuse to invest in technology that can continue making our little medieval geeky hearts happy. And that we continue to train each generation on how to digitally share the information. I know that once the SCA fires back up, I'm still going to be willing to do video breakdowns online. I'm still going to be willing to go onto shows and talk and reach out and also watch them. I love that our collegiums have become digital. And that the arts have just expanded exponentially. The knowledge pool is huge right now. And so my hope is that we grow as a community and continue to foster that so we can make knowledge more easily accessible. So our little geeky hobby can reach multiple generations across the known world with it. And I'm not quite sure how that continues to go. And I'm not quite sure all of the training that we need to do. But I know that I'm willing to take part in it and continue to be a part of that growth.
Yeah, there's I think I've talked about this on the show at least once, probably more than once, and that's the resistance that, especially in the West Kingdom, there was to online interaction content. It was a fight to get people to join Yahoo groups back 20 years ago off of the listserv that was just crumbling under the weight of the activity. It was a fight to get people to join Facebook and start interacting on Facebook. Now everybody's on Facebook, and I cannot wait for the next thing for it to transfer off. I hate Facebook as a social media officer, but just also as like a social media person in general. Facebook's terrible. It really is. We need to find like the next thing that we can just like everybody ease into this new platform that we can all interact on that is not Facebook. My boss, the Society Seneschal, is watching this right now, and so yeah, that was unofficial opinion, but you know. Anyways, the where I'm going with this is that there's been a huge resistance, at least in my kingdom, against anything that happens online. I had a huge fight to get people to even go to my blog for a long time. I had a costuming blog from late 90s, the late 1990s. I had this costuming website, and then it became blog, and then it became like a whole thing. And you know, I would get approached by the Laurel Council and be like, well, what are you doing? Where's your research? And I'm like, it's all here on this thing called the internet. Here is the URL. And they would be like, yeah, that's max of effort. You know, like literally the internet smacks of the effort. So my like late Gen X, early millennial brain was like blown. I'm like, how is it that you can sit on a computer and type in www.whatever.com is such huge fucking effort? Really? Like, could not understand. Just the giant disconnect, like generational disconnect there. What's great though is that everybody has started getting used to that, right? We've eased everyone in. And then the pandemic forced everyone's hands. There are some holdouts. I have friends who just absolutely refuse to use Facebook, absolutely refuse to get online, barely use, like will not use, you know, any sort of email or anything. Like text message is a little iffy, right? They're going to get left out. It's the real reality of where we're going technology wise is it's going to become a more and more virtually interactive space. And I think the SCA finally had to confront that with the pandemic. And we are scrambling to catch up where a lot of other organizations have had like very robust virtual communities for 20 years now. Thinking things like the 501st, the, you know, Star Wars, and cosplay communities. Cosplay was a thing that actually came out of the internet itself. I was there when it happened. Like, you know, I saw the genesis. It was really kind of weird to be a part of something like that at the very beginning. But the SCA has just really, really fought that. Now, of course, because of the pandemic, we're catching up. We're playing catch up. It's going to be a growth experience that people aren't going to be happy about. But I think that we are going to see some things continue to be utilized in the virtual space, and exactly classes, virtual collegia or salons, or whatever you want to call them, where we'll have symposiums, essentially symposia, where people will show up to teach these classes virtually. It may become rolled into, like, and this is the way a lot of academic symposia work, which is where they have a virtual track that happens like maybe a couple of days before the actual in-person event happens, or it's interspersed throughout. You don't have to always be participating in meet space. You can be in a virtual space and still have interaction. And I think things like that are going to start to be more and more common. Do I think that it's going to go completely virtual? No, never will. The SCA doesn't work that way. When it goes completely virtual, the SCA will cease to exist. Like, it flat out will cease to exist. But I think that there will be a more and more incorporation more and more of virtual interactions. And I think that's good. I actually think that's a great thing. It's great for accessibility. It's great for, long distance learning, long distance participation. It's great for community. So I'm all for it. That was a rant, wasn't it?
It counts as a soapbox.
It felt kind of soapboxy.
So Baby Ninja just said he has a massive soapbox about it, but he's not live. So we're going to move on to the next question.
I'm going to say, Baby Ninja, bring this one to the server so we can actually discuss it. So the next one comes from Bridget, who's awesome.
That's our Baroness Anne.
Yeah, Baroness Anne is
my boss.
Fucking amazeballs. Which are the sexiest kingdoms and why?
Sexiest kingdoms and why?
I know my answer.
Oh, I have my answer too.
I feel like I have to say the West, because I mean that's our kingdom.
Well, and you're the queen of it, so that would be like the actual de facto answer.
I'm also gonna have there's a few there's a few, Montier. I love the Norse vibe for Montier, and I know, yes, they do many other things, but having started there and they just always feels Norse to me, and I love that. The Outlands, they just do some beautiful stuff. Atenvelt, I feel like I'm going to start an interkingdom war if I don't list them all.
They're all beautiful.
They're all beautiful.
Yeah.
I know I have a few that are on my like bucket list if I want to go to Lockhock and I want to go to Drachenwald for events, and that's a hard one. Next answer.
I was going to say any kingdom I'm in.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
No, or Vera. Any kingdom Vera's in for sure. Because we're probably going to be
okay. Who's trying to make points at the queen now?
I'm trying to get more gin. More cocktails. No, actually, funnily enough, I was going to say, I didn't realize until this question was asked that I have, like, if we were to like anthropomorphize kingdoms, I would say I would have a huge crush on Montier. Like, for the same reason that not only is their weather beautiful, it's substantially colder and wetter, which I like. I don't like the hot and dry that we have here in the West Kingdom, 9/10 of the year. But I like that wet, misty kind of what I think Yieldy Tiny would look like. But yeah, Montier is pretty dreamy. So, Helga.
I was about to say, have you seen how many hot men are in Montier?
I have.
It is and they're women.
Mm-hmm.
Good fucking God. That king, I'm not
good.
sure what they feed their people, but like, you hang out in Montier, you're like, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot. Y'all are hot. Like, what the fuck? How did this happen? And not to like put down any other kingdoms, but like Lockhock wins for accent And also, I'll probably say that they have a majority of like really good butts, but just on tier wins overall. Like they're the MMA of hot kingdoms. Like they're gonna show up with all the right moves to just be like.
Have you ever look at the photos of Ontirans like on tiering, and they're just perfectly dressed.
They're Ontirans on tiering.
It's so beautiful. It is now a noun and a verb. They just are beautiful. It just, everything is beautiful. Like they have some amazing fiber artists that like give back to the kingdom with these gorgeous cloaks, like to die for. Embroidery, like Jesus. I really, 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 really want all of that. And I'm not cool.
The war cloaks they produce for West Ontir War are just
the war cloaks for West Ontir. So there's a cabal of amazing fiber artists in Ontir that every year they make these war cloaks that
every other,
right. It's
because we make our one for us to give.
You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to denigrate the West Kingdom's little war coat thing, but when Ontir awards the West for the what is it called? It's the recognition of like the most like warrior like person on the field that gets the war cloak. What's that called?
The war cloak?
The war cloak. I think that's just called the war
cloak.
I'm going to get Thorfinn barreling in here with his cloak, being like, it's the thing. But Ontir's cloaks that they award the West once a year, an individual in the West, they are just amazing. And I live with one, and I'm always like, can I just wrap it up and pretend it's fine? You know, it's just the artistry, the fiber arts, there's just amazing.
I feel like maybe we should explain what the war cloak is, really.
Okay, yeah, no, well, okay, so the war cloak, hold on a minute. Can I go?
Yeah, I'm nominating you as my champion to explain this.
Yeah,
go audience.
Go explain, champion. I'm just gonna drink.
The war cloak is what every fucking warfighter wants. I will tell you, it is for being a just elegant badass and being recognized for it on the field and being recognized by the other kingdom. Win or lose,
you gotta show that.
You should. It's only showing up as black.
I know, it's all showing up as black. So
but it is badass.
This is one of the war cloaks that was made by Ontir's little cabal of amazing goddesses.
Look at the cool checky on the
cool. So it's got the cool Ontir checky, and only Thorfinn has that. That's what he said. He's like, only I have it. So it's just it's dark blue. Actually, it looks black on the thing, but it's this beautiful blue and gold and freaking amazing. So and I'm just gonna cuddle this for the rest of the show, even if I melt.
My understanding of how this started was who the host kingdom alternates every year. One year it will be the West, and the next year it is Ontir. And one of the years that Ontir was the host kingdom, Sir Brand did something epic on the warfield, and it inspired the crown of Ontir that they went to their artisans on site and said, we need to do something amazing. Can we make him a cloak, or would you make him a cloak? So the very first cloak was made entirely on site and was presented to him in Grand Court. And then the next year, the West was the host.
That was given to Alden, apparently.
Oh, it was given to Alden. Okay, I had it wrong. Actually, Thorfinn.
It's the final show. Fuck it.
It's the final show, and Thorfinn does the story better than I did.
Sure, the way that it was that Loopy, fucking Dagmar,
Duchess Dagmar.
Long may she live. I love her to death. So I think it was her idea, and Alden was given the first one, I think, and it was this kind of like, and that's what started the whole, or maybe Alden started it. I can't remember. One of the two.
Yeah, anyway, you were just there to get.
But I know Loopy was involved.
Which one did you get?
I don't know. The cool blue one.
No. I meant what number?
I don't know.
He doesn't remember. He's useless.
They're not numbered.
Yeah, so it's alternated every year since then. Whoever the host kingdom is, they pick a fighter from the other kingdom who has inspired them The cloak is always finished on site. That is kind of one of the rules. Yeah, and it's such a cool tradition. I love it.
So all this checky, by the way, I gotta go full on Laurel right now. These are individual 1-inch squares of wool that have been blanket stitched or
that's cool.
Something like that. Anyway, it's just insane. And everything, the applique, it's just perfect. And we refer to this as Thorfinn's Wibby.
Yeah. And they're all different. None of them look the same.
All different. They're all different. And Montier, yay! We love you. Sorry. I know.
Yeah, I feel like we all have a
super hard on Montier, and I feel weird. Sorry, guys.
With that, should we go to the next question?
Probably.
Yes.
Sassy, that's all yours.
Okay, I'm getting back to this. All right, that's I melt to death here. Let's see. Antonio, for the first time, crowns who reign for the length of 2+ reigns crowns who reign for the length of 2+ reigns because of this. Do you think that they should get strawberry leaves? I guess so. This is people are typing it in, and we're just copying and pasting. For the first time, crowns who reign for the length of 2+ reigns because of the pandemic. Do you think that they should get strawberry leaves? So, like, you're at what, 5 Western reigns now? I think.
We're 4. We're in the middle of our 4th.
Yeah.
5th will start at Beltane.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that that's a question for the populace. That if that's something they want, then I think that that's kind of, that's not something I want to answer. For me, I've done 1 reign. You get the reign you get, and sometimes it's a little weird.
I'd argue it's always a little weird.
Always a little weird. I don't think there is any one, a normal reign. I know people talk about that, but having talked with other people who have reigned, there's always something that's not what you expected that happens.
Yeah, agreed. Helga?
So I'm going to say that the person reigning would need to ask the populace, and the populace would then need to respond in a way that is anonymous. Because one of the things that's really cool about being a countess is there's not many of them. And that person may want to sit in the throne the second time to earn that. And so it's really individual. We can't demand that from the populace, and we can't demand that from the royal sitting. It needs to be a mutual decision. Both parties must agree and consent to something like that. And so there's a very delicate balance that needs to go there. There should not be a mandate. There should not be anything else like that. Everybody has to agree. And everybody needs to be okay if some people go one way and other people go the other. And really be okay with that. Because some people will want to be a countess. Some people may want to be a duchess. And that is a personal choice. Also, the populace may say that that person did not do the work during the pandemic, and we need to trust the populace. And we need to let their voices be heard, otherwise we undermine them. That's the reason why I say anonymous, because they need to be protected in the process, but their voices need to be heard in the process too. And so that's where I sit. It's a very teeter-tottery answer, but that is my answer. And if I was in your situation, that is what I would want. Is I would want my opinion to matter, but I would want the populace to make the decision.
I think that there should be some way of recognizing the royalty who have reigned during COVID. That if it's an order that is opened and closed, and there's only 20 or 40, I guess, entrants in it, or are we at 20 kingdoms or 21? Oh God, I forgot lost count. Anyway, however many kingdoms and however many reigns that those kingdoms have had during COVID, during this last year, there is I think that is something that absolutely there should be a recognition for it. I would say, personally, my opinion is, just as a casual observer, it shouldn't be a duchy. I think it should be special. I'm not saying that duchies aren't special. Not saying that counties aren't special, not saying that any of the existing royal peerages are not special, but I think it should be something that distinguishes above and beyond what a normal reign is, whatever that is for the individual kingdom. What I would like to see is something like Marquess and Marquesa. I would like to see something like that. That is a really cool historical title that, you know, in the, especially if you're talking like the Anglo or the English peerage system, which a lot of our SCA peerage system is based on, it fits actually in between county and duchy. There's the Marquess, the Marches. It's basically people who ruled over these borderlands. And peerage-wise, though, they were in between county and duchy. And I know a handful of people who have taken Marquess as their, or Marquesa, Marquess, Marchioness, as kind of a personal individual title. If they've had something like, say, a single kingdom reign and a principality reign, you know, like then they're, I prefer to be known as this. But to see it recognized as an official title for somebody who has reigned during the pandemic, I think that would be really cool. And then have it closed. That's, or something like that, where it is just a specific recognition for the royalty that had far more foisted upon them than they expected. For a year plus. So that would be my answer.
All good answers.
Yeah. Grand Dame. Well, I've also heard people say like Serene Highness, or, you know, things like that. Or Archduchy kind of a thing. I think an archduchy actually ranks above a duchy. That might get a little iffy with people who feel very possessive about their rank as a duke or duchess. You might run into fights about that, but everybody's got a whole thing about it. Anyway, next question. It's you, Helga.
Next one comes from Baron Logan.
Again.
What kingdom or out of kingdom event are you most looking forward to attending? Cough, cough. I hear that Double Wars in 2020 is going to be especially good. Cough, cough.
2022.
Or 2022.
Yeah.
I can't read.
You know, Double Wars in 2022 sounds pretty epic, I have to admit. And that is on my bucket list of things I have wanted to do is Double Wars. Also on that list is Roni Festival in Lockgach is also on my list of things I want to do. But for Interkingdom things, I am hoping for Great Western War in Australia this year to be the first two I get back to. Fingers crossed.
For us, it's definitely always going to be West Ontario War, Ontario West War.
Yeah, I love that war.
Great Western War, like, you know, Australia. Yeah, kind of the trifecta of neighboring interkingdom wars around the West Kingdom. Those are probably going to be like whichever one is happening immediately to whenever it's safe to come back to in-person events. That's going to be the first one that we go to for sure. Just de facto. Double Wars would be rad. Double Wars takes place in Sweden. It's pretty cool, I hear. I would love to go. I just don't know when that will be feasible, economically speaking, but because we just bought a house. There's all of that to take into account. But yeah. Okay.
Double Wars Roni Festival. Those are the two.
Oh God, I would love to go to our Roni Festival.
So simple answer, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I want to go to Double Wars because, like, I know a bunch of the guys there, and like, I want to just fucking hang with them because they're. Every time I talk to them, they're my peeps.
All right, so next one is from Randall.
Ooh, this one's a fucking doozy.
What is the one thing you have done that you wish you could undo?
So I have to admit, I actually regret things in my life I didn't do much more than I regret anything I did do. And so I'm going to turn this question around and say that the one thing that I did not do that I really wish I did is I really wish I had gone to Ireland with a group of friends who went in celebration of somebody's wedding anniversary. And I didn't go because I was concerned about money. And to this day, I really regret that I did not join them. That I'm like, I wish I had, canceled my, I wish I'd just figured out how to do it and gone. That's it for me. That's the big one.
Helga.
Things that I've done that I wish I could undo. My moments when I was unkind to those that did not deserve it. I have a temper. And I have a vengeful temper. And in my 20s, I caused damage. And I was enough of a personality that I could get away with it. And if I could go back and slap the shit out of myself and understand that had I taken a moment to be kind and understand why they were acting out of fear or acting out of even self-loathing that was then placed on other people, those are the moments that I wish I could undo, because I would have been a better person and they wouldn't carry the damage with them. Also, to be really, really real, I wish I could undo the moment where drunkenly I pressured a friend into sex. Because that moment will mark me for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Because I fundamentally am one of the bad guys in my head and always will be. Because I was one of those people, and it took many years to fix the damage that I did. And we have come to a place because I owned what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a lesson I wish that I had never learned. And that's a lesson that I wish they had never learned.
You apologized, right?
Oh yeah, no, like we're friends to this day.
Yeah.
Like, but it was one of those moments in time where I can never undo the damage that I did to that person. And I can never undo that moment.
Yeah.
And luckily I learned from it and they learned from it. But fundamentally at that moment in time, I became one of the people that I fight so hard against. Because I know the damage they can do, because I did it. And yeah, I apologized and everything else like that. And like, there was definitely that moment in time where you're like, oh shit. Like you wake up the next morning and you're like, that was bad. That was a really bad thing that just occurred, but you can't roll back time and be like, hey, dumbass, like, don't take that shot and then do that thing, pew pew. Consent isn't real right now. Consent is not real at all right now, because nobody can actually give consent. And so I actually put myself in the category of occasionally, like in those conversations, I'll actually talk about it of like, hey, look, I am technically a person that has committed rape. Like, this is a real thing. And I can never undo that. I can never take that out of my past. I can never take that out of their past. I can never actually make up for that. I can own what I did. So yeah.
So
I wish I could totally undo that. Never can.
I mean, I think there are absolutely things that I could have handled better, and I didn't. Either I was too immature at the time, or too whatever. There was a million reasons why. I have a hard time like coming up with like specific instances. For some reason, my brain doesn't like to really weigh heavily on the real heavy parts. It's more the sort of thing where I accidentally inferred that my friend was fat one time, and I will continue to beat myself up over that for the rest of my life. And that was, it is hard to, I own everything that I've done, and that I continue to do, because that is the right thing to do. Stand by your words. If they were said in jest and taken poorly, apologize. If they were mean because you were mad, apologize. An apology is a huge first step towards putting to rights whatever the wrongs were. But we all exist in this world that we will all step on each other's toes in some form. And yeah, this is actually a really hard question, because The other side of it is that I've also lived my life in a lot of fear. And I haven't stuck my neck out, or I haven't stepped outside my comfort zone as many times as I probably should have. And those things do haunt me. So yeah, it's really hard for me to answer this question eloquently. So I think we're just going to move to the next question. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to dip out real quickly. I just got, Thorfinn just came in here to tell me that he got the actual history of the war cloak. So we can throw that in maybe after this next question is read, but I'll be right back. Because it is that time. Oh, Tulia's been drinking. Run to the bathroom.
Oh, the Tulia timer went off. So, Your Majesty, I'm just going to ask you random questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Pancakes or waffles?
French toast.
Oh, solid answer. Have you ever had waffled French toast?
I've not.
It is the perfect fuckery.
I like stuffed French toast.
Never had it.
Oh, it's like they'll put like cream cheese in it, and oh, it's so good.
Crepes. Your feelings on crepes?
Oh, I love crepes. And I love that they can be sweet or savory. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to compare stepping on a Lego and I'm just like, there's just not anything that's really like stepping on Lego. Oh, the goat head. Stepping on a Lego or stepping on a goat head? Because you're from California, so you know what those stupid little things are.
A goat head?
The little things that look like oh my god, I just lost the thing. They're the spiky doodads in the ground that are terrible.
Oh, those like little round.
Yeah, those little round
with all the. Oh. Probably a Lego over the seed pod, because the seed pod will actually puncture your foot. The Lego just hurts.
Truth.
And
so
having
one.
People are probably gonna want to hear it. I'll be right here.
Okay. Do you like cider, Your Majesty?
Do I like cider?
Yeah, cider.
Like hard cider? Yes.
Sweet or dry?
Tend to go with sweet on that one.
Okay.
And it cannot be beery. It cannot use a beer. Okay, I'm sure there are a few beers I have liked in my life, but for the most part, I don't like the taste of beer yeasts. It's not the beer, it's the yeast that I can't stand.
Yeah. All right, so another one. Blackberries or raspberries?
Blackberry.
I like them both.
You gotta choose one.
Why? Why do I have to choose? I know she is mean. Okay, if I had to choose both perfectly ripe, I think I'm gonna have to go with the blackberry.
First time in my life I had a perfectly ripe blackberry. Like, I'm always used to the little bit of like little tart, little sour. I was given one from, believe it or not, grown on the SpaceX campus in Seattle, or just outside Seattle. And it was sweet. I had no idea that blackberries are sweet. And it was amazing. I was like, holy crap, if I knew they tasted like this the whole time, I would have been eating them the whole time. So.
But I will always take huckleberries over both of them.
I'll tell you that lingonberry is a winner for me.
I love lingonberry.
Yeah. Or elderberry. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
Elderberry is amazing. Elderberry extract is fucking incredible. First time I ever was introduced to elderberry as a real thing was in England. They do elderflower and elderberry extract in like syrup form, and you add it to like a seltzer. It's sort of a make your own fizzy drink, and it's just kind of customary. And I was like, well, what's the thing? Cool.
So we're ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's get back to questions. Sorry about that.
No worries. I was just throwing random questions in there as we went. So this one comes from Bjorn. What are your goals for Your Majesty? I'm going to edit this one so it also includes your show because you do the Queen's Tea.
Oh, yes. Okay.
What are your goals for Between Two Peers or the Queen's Quarantine in subsequent years or years? Is your goal in the SCA what are your SCA goals in the post-pandemic?
So I do not see the quarantine continuing past when we can meet in person again. And really the goal of it was to give us all a little bit of time and just a virtual space to get together and chat, drink some tea. If people want some FaceTime with the crown, I'm here, you know, and I'm happy to talk with people. It really was just a social hour during the pandemic and while we're separated from each other. So I don't foresee it being a thing afterwards. My goal is strictly helping to foster our community.
So may I ask a follow-up question on that one?
Of course.
Do you think that something like the quarantine would continue to foster the idea of the populace coming to the queen and increasing that basic like radius of it, so you don't have to like be at an event? Do you think that would be something worthy of continuing to go on after quarantine?
I think that there are definitely advantages to it, considering how far spread out our kingdom is. And, you know, the folks who live in Awertha, the folks who live in the far west, it's a plane ride almost always to get any FaceTime with the crown. Either the crown is traveling to you on a plane or you are traveling to them on a plane. And so if you actually, I could see an advantage of creating those ties with some of our more far-flung populous members. I do think once we go back to in-person events, it will become more of a challenge to have the time on a weekend to schedule that. Yeah, part of it is we have the time right now because we aren't trying to juggle the schedule of maintaining our mundane lives and keeping our jobs while prepping for an event and then going to an event and then recovering from an event and prepping for the next event. It's a lot of running around, and adding in another thing to do is a lot.
Okay, I got to answer this. Goals for Between Two Peers in the subsequent year or years. I think I said earlier that I'm really kind of like, I'm tired, a little burned out. You know, if I could have my way, I don't want to see the show go away entirely. I just need there to be a balance between, you know, like when we started out with COVID and everything and the pandemic shut down, we had nothing better to do. Now things are starting to open up a little bit more. We're a little more comfortable with where we are in our shutdown lives. So doing a show once a week is a lot of pressure. And the shows that do shows once a week, like, totally hats off to you guys. Like, that is not easy. It really is not an easy thing. So what I would like to see happen going forward, I don't want to see Between Two Peers go away. I don't want to see the community fragment or just fade out, but I want there to be a balance, a work-life balance. That's all I really want. If it means we're going to, you know, every other week or maybe once a month with me and Helga, but we do other show, you know, other hosts, you know, in the other 3 weeks out of the year, 3 week, you know, Fridays out of the year or month. That's a possibility. Like, there's, you know, Helga and I are going to actually, again, have this talk. We're going to have a 2-week break where we don't talk about the show at all. And then we're going to come back and we're going to really knuckle down and figure out where we want the show to go. But I don't want it to go away. I don't want it to stop, but there needs to be a work-life balance and a bit of a change, because now that we're a year in, it's something that we're both really kind of like, okay, you know, we got to do this. So that's my answer, such as it is. Helga?
My goal for Between Two Peers is continuing to maintain the Discord server and the awesome community that has become. And then beyond that, I would love to see Sassy and I doing shows once a month, and then ultimately hosting past guests as our show hosts.
Yes.
And giving them a bigger platform, because I figure we have hosted an amazing allotment of people, and I think that giving them the same spotlight that we have been in and shared would be a really cool way to continue to see the SCA expand, and continue to see the online content expand, because they know people we don't. So they know guests who invite that we don't know, and that they could possibly get to be on the show that we couldn't. because there's those personal connections. And so where I want to see Between Two Peers go is a broader platform that allows more voices to be heard, both peer and non, while maintaining a really cool social environment on Discord where we get to talk about, like our daily lives all the way to some of the stuff that we're struggling in the SCA with. And having that super cool supportive community has been the best thing that came out of the show. Like, hands down, that community is amazing, and I love the people on that server. And so that's like my kind of like wishes and hopes. And then really I'm going to echo Sassy on the fact that we're going to take 30 days off, but we have promised to take 2 weeks off, like hardcore the show, so we can come back with a fresh mind and see what ideas come out of that so we can continue to expand.
I would also like to add, we shouldn't just keep burdening Baby Ninja and Technomancer with like every single weekend. So we need to figure out, part of that discussion is figuring out ways to give them a break. Hi, visit from my cat.
Wait, is that a drinking thing? We drink.
It is a drinking thing. My beautiful baby girl, little golden girl.
I don't have a Thorfinn to come refill my drink for me. This is tragic.
Well, if you text him your address, he might.
You're close enough. He could.
We didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that. Oh.
Yeah. So, and that's where I'd like to see it go. So, Miss Sassy, your question is next.
All right. Ulrich von Kues, what is your favorite event and why?
I think I have to say West Ontario War, followed by Crown events. And the reason for West Ontario, it is such a beautiful site. It's always a very mellow event for me, even when I'm working, being head of court or doing stuff. It's still just a fun, enjoyable event. And I love the camaraderie between the two kingdoms. And I love it.
Hell yeah.
She's ignoring you.
Now she's answering a text message.
Sorry. I'm trying to do all the background show stuff at the same time.
That's the thing. It's like whenever one of us is all like tappity, 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 that's because somebody's furiously texting us about something.
Especially like on the show where they're just like, hey, there's this thing going on. You're like, oh, I'm trying to fix that before we keep going. My favorite event and why, I love Gulf Wars.
I want to go. I've never been.
Gulf Wars is amazing. So West Ontario War is my favorite friendly war. Gulf Wars is my favorite get lost in the experience. Because Gulf Wars is really like a town that a skirmish has broken out on the outside, and nobody in the town really cares. Like, that's the nobles fighting. Who gives a fuck about them? They'll show up and spend money in merchants later anyways. And so you go to Gulf Wars, and the scenarios don't start until late in the day, so you can get over your hangover. And the parties go late into the night, and you can walk into campsites and get lost in the experience because there's literally built-in Viking villages. Like, you can walk into a place and you walk down into a pit house where you're not allowed to carry anything mundane. So you walk into this place with your mug and you sit and listen to stories, or you walk into another camp and they're hosting a feast and they're just like, cool, we have extra, come sit down. And it is an amazing experience to just have everything fall away while also getting to meet people from around the known world. Southern hospitality is real. But Southern hospitality mixed with SCA hospitality is the ideal. Because nobody gives a fuck who you are and where you're from. You are now part of what's going on. And they will make it so you can be part of it. And so for that, Gulf Wars is like one of my favorite events. Also, hands down the best pickups of my life. So I've been to Pennsic, West Ontario War, Great Western, Estrella, Gulf Wars, hands down the best pickups, because everybody is there with no ego. Like they're out there, and there's like the tree of knowledge that shows up every year, and you go out there and you can ask questions and you can get training, or you can just go out and like throw down and measure dicks and then drink a beer afterwards. It's the entire scale of it. And nobody cares as long as you just like you state what you want walking in, you go have those fights, you'll laugh on the sidelines later. It's every experience I've had there has been good. So
awesome. You know, I'm going to give the slacker Westie answer, which is definitely West Ontario. And I say that's a slacker because so Ontario is, you know, it is its own kingdom with its own culture, and wonderful culture it is. It feels the most Western of all of the other kingdoms. So Westies feel very at home. Sorry, Ontario, it's just a burden you got to bear, having Californians constantly invade. But it does feel very familiar, but at the same time, exotic and different. And God damn, you can't beat the weather. You really can't. So the way you lure a Westie in to any event, have fantastic weather. And fantastic weather usually means it's, you know, on average, 76 degrees, maybe 80 is a high. You know, it's not like blazing hot. It's not scorched patch of earth with no shade, which is most of our events here in the West. It is, you know, there are trees and mountains and the ocean is nearby. It's like a mile away. You could literally like walk to it. It's right there. And yeah, so I don't know, just for ambiance and community and seeing Ontario family, like, you know, I'd say West Ontario, hands down. By the way, if you've ever picked up, there is always a discrepancy between West Ontario or Ontario West. Some people are very particular about whoever is hosting it. That's the kingdom that gets the first billing. But normally in the kingdoms respectively, it's Ontarians all call it Ontario West and the Westies all call it West Ontario. So that's why it's always, you know, we're family. You guys are our family. We will bicker about that for life, but you know what? We're all family. But yeah, I would totally say West Ontario. So do we want to do the last question of the evening?
I'm down for the last question of the evening.
Okay.
Since we've been going for a little over 2 hours.
Yes.
Your Majesty, you have been an amazing guest so far. Thank you so much for joining us. The last question of the evening is from Morgan. Ask each guest, ... Tell me your favorite SCA story.
Oh, God.
At one time with that one guy.
All right. I think my current favorite story is probably from Estrella 2018, the Great Flood year, when pretty much...
Or was that 2019? I think that was 2019. Yeah, 2019 was the Great Flood.
2019 or 2018?
No, it was 2019.
Okay, so 2019, I'm off a year. But the flooding, when all of West Camp is flooded with inches of water, and most people have fled to a hotel except 3 Westies, an Ayton Knight, and a Squire from Drachenwald. And we brought in a propane fire pit. We grabbed these 2 pallets and we're sitting on folding chairs in the mud with our feet up on these pallets. And we had the best time. And in that evening of chatting, we're sitting there and we're like, how many pallets do you think it would take to pallet the floor of this pavilion?
I would like to note I was one of those individuals there.
Yes. It was Helga, myself, and Tink was the other Westie. And so
Dominique was there also.
I thought she was, she wasn't with us. She was hanging out somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we're hanging out. We're kind of looking at each other going, how many pallets do we think we'd need to pallet this pavilion? No, this is not our pavilion. None of us belong to this pavilion. And we kind of say, yeah, do you think he would mind? I don't think so. So the next day, we gathered pallets and we palleted the entire floor of that pavilion and out into their kitchen area, which was outside. the amount of work that the West Camp put into pulling pallets, creating pathways through camp. Everyone had a pallet in their pavilion. So you had something above the water to stand on to get dressed and undressed. And it was crazy. And the owner of the pavilion gets back the next day because he and his wife were at a hotel that night. And we're like, are you mad at us? And he was like, I love you guys so much right now.
Yeah, we had palleted the whole pavilion, the kitchen area. There was like planking back to each fucking tent. By the
There was
time
planking across the road to the porta potties. I mean, it was.
We had this down. That was redneck science. Thank you.
Oh yeah, there was some scary spots like where you were trying to cross a ditch that had gotten dug, but you couldn't see it anymore because it had flooded higher than the ditches. And so there was a pallet that extended over it. So if you stepped on that end, it would teeter on you. You just had to know what was treacherous and what wasn't.
We had it booby trapped. It was a safety device back to our tents.
And truthfully, as much as it was crazy and muddy and it was just nuts. But honestly, it is one of the best times I have ever had at an event. And to this day, I look back at that ward, I'm like, I had so much fun. So much fun. As much as it was miserable and as much as there was weird stuff going on, it was still one of my favorite SCA memories.
Usually when shit's going really weird, that the best stories and the best memories are made.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you really learn the true spirit of community.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think, funnily enough, my brain can never really store stories unless there's like a trigger or, something to key onto. And so right now, the thing that my brain is coming up with was Vera, that Sinagua Mists War. Also, I think in 2019, it was in May 2019. So the principalities, the two, what are they called? Continental, I guess, principalities in the West Kingdom, Sinagua and Mists, have a little war twice a year, and one principality will host, and then the other principality hosts. And so it's either Mist Sinagua or it's Sinagua Mists. In this case, it was Sinagua Mists, which usually happens on Thorfinn's birthday, or thereabouts. And so Thorfinn and I had just started dating. And this is kind of like one of our first events that we're a couple. And it was wonderful. Shenaniganry ensued. It was fun. Everybody was having a great time. And that night, the gin comes out. And we're with Auntie Vera. We got Auntie Vera's gin joint happening. It's hopping. And
I'm going to blame Helgi.
Oh,
absolutely. The one also pouring. It was not just me.
No. In fact, at this point, this part of the story is 100% you were not involved.
Innocent. See the halo.
Like, I was just there. I was simply a bystander. The whole night, Thorfinn has been wandering off to the edge of camp to take a whiz. And Helgi, every single time he does this, because he's wearing a white tunic in the middle of the night, is, visible from space, basically. Helgi has been aiming limes at him, just like lime after just hucking limes at his back. Essentially, this has been going on all night. So Thorfinn has enough. And he's like, all right. So him and Helgi are brothers. Like I'm not even kidding. Like, they're not blood, but they've been around each other practically since like embryonic stage. So they are tight as fuck, and he knows Helgi's behind this, and he's getting irritated. So he walks up to Helgi though, and I forget what the triggering part was. There was a trigger point or a turning point where there was been enough limes hucked at Thorfinn's back that
I think he got pelted like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And one of them hit his elbow, and he was just...
there was some sort of weird thing where he was like, all right, fuck you, Helgi. But then he goes up to Helgi immediately afterwards and is all like, oh, no, that's what it was. He walks up to Helgi and he socks Helgi in the shoulder and says, Helgi, ass over tea kettle. Helgi's like, literally like stopped his heart, kind of like punched so hard in the chest. And Helgi jumps up and they're laughing and hugging because they're brothers, right? Well, then Thorfinn immediately hands Helgi his cup, which is a fairly substantial, Viking mug. And he's like, make me a drink. And Helgi,
I just punched you in the chest and knocked you over.
I'm sitting right there. I just see Helgi go tumbling out, literally feet overhead. I'm like, what had just happened? But I'm also sitting on the other side is the bar. And Helgi's like, sure, brother, grabs his mug, walks over to the bar, and Thorfinn has already like toddled off in his little like, I'm drunk and whatever's gonna happen happens. And I'm watching Helgi make this cocktail, this gin and tonic. And he fills the cup with ice and he takes the giant handle of Tanqueray and he just does this with it. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and he winks, And I'm like, I don't even know what's happening because I've had enough by this point that I'm just like, I'm just here. And then he finishes the drink and he hands it back to Thorfinn. Thorfinn proceeds to down it, and it's pretty much entirely gin. Gets wrecked. And the rest of that night was this blur of Thorfinn running around with like the little baby knight that had just been made and his little buddies, like blowing their minds about like all the stories of Sinagua back in the day when Sinagua was amazing and cool and all the people were like, whatever. And it ends with me basically trying to like drag Thorfinn into the tent to put him to sleep, smother him. Shh. Trying to get his shoes off because there's the rule about passing out with your shoes on. You don't pass out drunk if you've got your shoes on or you got your shoes off. So I'm trying to get his shoes off so he's not passed out drunk. He's fighting me every step of the way. He calls me arguably the worst girlfriend ever. And in the process of it, where earlier he had called you, Vera, an adequate friend.
He called me an adequate friend in June right after.
Oh, it was the next event after that. Right. You're an adequate friend.
I'm an adequate friend. Although that same weekend he did upgrade me from adequate to necessary.
Necessary. You are actually, I would argue, entirely necessary for it. Anyway, that night was a whole bunch of weird shit. And I'm sure there were other stories, but this one, because you were here, Vera, is the one that I remember.
God, that one was so fun. I just remember when you finally, dragged him out when we all were like, let's go to bed. They had just sent the baby knight and his friends to go get more beer.
I know, yeah.
Everyone went to bed.
That was part of it where we're sitting there, we're like, he's like, oh man, we're out of beer.
Back and like
Baby Knight was like, I'll go get some from my camp. And his little buddies, they all go run off. And then immediately, as soon as they disappear, Thorfinn's like, all right, let's go to bed. And I'm like, just send.
They're going to come back. They'll leave. Just
like, yeah, whatever. So Thorfinn. Yeah, it's fine. They'll figure it out. Like, anyway.
And the worst part, you were trying to get the window,
the Winnegas off.
Yeah, the site had the worst stickers, so you were trying to save him from climbing into bed.
Trying to save him from
covered legs
at night. Anyway, that's my current story. I love you. It's real love. Trying to get stickers out of Winnegas. That's real love.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Anywho's.
That's some brutal. Like getting like stickers out of Winnegas. Hard pass.
We were picking stickers out of everything for like months after that event. It was a great event though. There are actually more stories for that event, and I'm not going to go into them right now because I'm just wacky. Yeah.
All right, Helga, your turn.
I was about to say, wow, I was going to see if I could sneak by without this one. I was going to say, shall we wrap up the episode? And Her Majesty.
Not without your answer, Beesh.
So one of my favorite event stories is my dear friend Fergus, who is champion number 2. I would like to note, not champion number 1. Comes like, you know how like Wile E. Coyote sneaks somewhere with like the little high step, like sneaky sounds? That's how Fergus moves through life. Especially when he thinks he's being clever. And so Fergus and Gunther, who at this point in their lives is almost 1,000 pounds of man between the two of them, comes sneaking over to me in a West on Tier war with the Wile E. Coyote soundtrack behind them and asks me, blunt to my face, Helga, do you have your butcher knives with you? Yes, I do. Why? They're like, well, we need them. And luckily, my brain goes, well, you can't have them without me. And they go, and they look around like this almost innocence, like they're not sure how to fucking respond at this point in time. Everybody drink, I just cussed. They're not sure how to respond at this point. And they're like, well, the landowner shot a bear. Okay. Well, he gave it to us. Oh, that's the reason why you need my knives. Get in the truck, boys. So we get into my very big Ford F-350, and they're on the tailgate, and we drive up to where this bear is, and then we proceed to butcher out this bear. And then, because at this point in time, I'm pretty much ripped, and so I am in my leggings and my tall boots and my sports bra, because you don't butcher a bear in your knight's favorite tunic. There's rules against that. And so now we're delivering this bear around site because there's no hard storage. Like, the meat's going to go to waste. So cool. Like, let's get it to people that will use it. And I stride into this Viking camp, literally covered in bear blood, and just deliver this half carcass of bear. And I'm like, have fun with it. Just make sure it's eaten in the next 48 hours. Like, let's go. And then I leave. This is where the SCA became real to me. Because 2 years later, I'm hanging out at West on Tier War, listening to the legends that are being told. And somebody brings up this story of this crazy, wild-haired chick from the West that killed the bear in camp with a knife. And at this point, my best friend James is looking at me like, dude, wait, hang on. I think they're talking about you. And like a bunch of other people that were there are now looking at me like dead in the face. Like, are you going to correct this? And I'm like, this is the most SCA experience of my life. Like, that is not how that went, but that is way more legendary than what happened. Yeah. I'm not correcting this. Because like the storyteller is like looking me in the face and telling me this story about how this like little savage chick from the West Kingdom, like this bear came in and she just offed this bear and oh my God, you had to see it and everything else like that. Drunk around a fire, like midnight storytelling. And I am looking at this dude and he is looking back at me and there is no recognition whatsoever.
No, you just let the story go.
Like,
just let that story go.
This is like when you get Thorfinn to tell a story about you and you never correct it.
Well, and that's the thing. He actually talks about the people telling stories about him. And he's like, that's not how it happened. You just let it go.
Oh, you just let it go. You let that legend happen. Never had a name drop in the story, everything else like that. And what ends up happening is like by the end of the story, he's got everybody rabble-roused about this insane chick that like did this thing and blah, blah, blah. And I walk across the fire pit and I'm like, hi, my name is Helga. I was the one that walked mostly shirtless into the Viking camp with that half of bear covered in blood. That's not exactly what happened, but I'm going to tell you that your story is better than any story I can tell. He shook his hand and fucking left. So to this day, that is one of my favorite SCA experiences is hearing a story told about me with the storyteller dead staring me at the face at some point and not knowing that I was the one involved in the story.
I've never had anyone tell stories
in my life.
I don't do things that people would tell stories about. So I'm literally the person that's usually just there like, they did what? Or, well, actually, it didn't really happen that way because I was there and I can have documentation. You want to see the text messages and screenshots? Like, yeah. That's me. Yeah. No, never get in the way of a good story, though. Even if you know it's wrong, like
literally, like, I'm not going to break my own heart, like, correcting that story because they never used my name. So nobody knows it was me.
Yeah.
But, like, there's pictures on my Facebook of me, like, arm deep in that bear cleaning it out for West on Tier. Yeah. Like,
See, all the cool shit happens at West Ontario.
All the cool shit happens at West Ontario, and then you get bear and mac and cheese, and it's really, really good.
That sounds delicious.
So we had to miss that year. We missed the year where the bear was killed.
Oh my god, we had bear ribs, we had bear mac and cheese, we had
you
bear.
deposited a significant.
Camp, and they'd be like, "Oh, dude, some crazy chick dropped off bear to our camp, so we're cooking it." And I'm like, "I am that crazy."
You dropped off a significant portion with the cooks encampment, and the cooks encampment they did bear like 6 different ways. And of course, we heard all of these, after the fact. Like I was there the next year, and yeah, legendary, literally legendary. Like that time that Helga gutted and cleaned a bear and gave bear to everybody, and bear happened, and I didn't get to see any of it.
Well, so the bear with Cook's Camp was like the best part of this, is because I walked into Cook's Camp literally with a half a bear over my shoulder, where I was like, "Oh, hey, it's Cook's Camp. You guys said you wanted bear," and literally just take this bear off my shoulders and like flop a half a bear on the table, and they're just like, "We didn't want this much bear. Like this is actually
a lot of meat."
I was like, okay, cool. Like, would you like a shoulder, or would you like a haunch, or would you like a back strap? And just like pull out the knife and I'm like, "I'm leaving this bear. I will see you later. I need to go get rid of the rest of this bear." And like that moment was just like,
I think Alfar was king. I'm pretty sure Alfar was king at the time, because he talks about getting bear. He had like the bear paws, the meat from the whatever part, the paw part or leg part or something like that. And I remember him telling that story about that, where he was like, "Fuck, that was the coolest thing ever." And and so I used to camp with the cooks encampment at West Ontario, and yeah, missed that year, missed all the delicious food, really mad still, but yeah, what can you do? So redone.
Yeah, so with that, I think we're going to wrap up episode 52, which makes a little over a year, because we did skip 1 week. So technically we're at a year and a week of running shows. And so what I want to do is, Your Majesty, would you like to do any shout outs?
I would like to do a shout out. There is a Bardic War that shall be occurring soon, and stay tuned. Watch for the postings on the interwebs. It should be excellent.
The intertrucks.
I'm looking forward to this. Miss Tulia, do you have any shout outs tonight?
I am going to shout out Her Majesty Vera's quarantine. So that's the 17th. It got moved, right?
It got moved, yes.
Yeah. So the 17th. So next Saturday. It's all over Facebook. It's all the happening people will see this. No, if you look up the quarantine, we'll post it to the Facebook. We'll share the event, and it's just a kind of virtual tea, Queen's tea. So,
I'm gonna shout out just all the other show content out there. Also, I'm going to do our normal shout out to Ask a Nights, which is our sister show, which is going strong. Like, holy crap, do they have some amazing content coming up. Nights from all across the known world. Pepper them with questions live. Like, nobody's asked sexual preferences yet. Like, I'm a little disappointed because I stalk those shows, and none of you have taken me up on asking any of the nights that.
I'm pretty
Why don't you ask that?
I send them questions like, what's the difference between justice and vengeance? And then I get hate mail later.
Nah. You know what? Asking the real questions, though. Also, I'd like to chime in. Thorfinn is sitting there. You guys have done and are doing so much. Also, thank you both. I can't tell you how much this meant to me. Thank you, guys. We owe you. And where's the part where he says it again? Please don't let this show end. So apparently our number one fan is Thorfinn, and
I was about to say Thorfinn is a huge fan of the show, and so the plan is not to let the show end, guys. Actually, I'm going to finish my shout outs and then we'll go into the closing.
Okay.
And so my shout outs are to check out the Sisters interview. They're doing amazing things, interviewing people from all around the known world. They are definitely a slightly more professional, less fuck driven show than we are, but I love their content. Everybody drink. I just said fuck.
Again.
So there's also, Ask a Nights Live. There's Calbar's Corner. There's so much other content coming out there. Check it out. Give them your time and see what they're putting out there, because interkingdom barriers are gone at this point in time. So we might as well learn as much as we can at this point. So please, 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 Go explore the wild internet. Well, you don't have to put up with us. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show with a note that we're taking a break. We're giving our production crew much needed time off. We're giving our mod team some time off, and Sassy and myself a little bit of time away from the show. We do not have intentions of ending the show. We do have intentions of adapting the show into season 2. Like season 2 of Between Two Peers will be different than the last year that you have done with us. And so we're really seeking feedback. Please check us out on Facebook, check us out on Discord, private message us if you wish to, and give us feedback of like what you liked, what content fed you and kept you coming back, because that's the goal. This is not just an ego project for Sassy and I of showing up every week and hearing ourselves talk. We're here because you guys continue to show up. We're here because we have amazing guests and awesome people that we can continue to interview that you all can get to know. And so we would like to continue that. It may just be a slightly different form. And so help us create that for you. Help us create that content by sending in your ideas, your knowledge, the people you want to see interviewed. Also, I'm going to put out there, if you want to start your own interview show, we have the resources. If you don't know how to, we do. We've been doing it. Like, believe me, we were like test subject 0 on this for the West Kingdom. If you want to try running your own interview show, we'll help you do that. We'll help give you the information so you can do what we've been doing. And then beyond that, we love you all. Thank you so much for the continued support and everything else like that. And we'll see you in a month. We'll be back with our sassy little selves and we'll figure it out and we'll go from there because it continues to be worth it because you guys are amazing.
All right. You know what? On that note, love you all. Peace out. Word to your mother.
We'll see you soon.